Standing by?
We're live.
Okay, we're live.
We're live? All right.
All right.
Hey,
Awesome. I'm here with Dave the Film Junkie. And we're going to talk a little bit about Man of Steel. So this is the live event, and what I want you guys to do is I'm going to push play in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now.
Here we go.
And it is
playing.
the
We're
Warner
good.
Brothers logo.
Such a beautiful
It's up
logo.
right now.
Oh my God.
Oh, look, we're in a little bit of a delay.
Are we?
Look at that.
Oh, wait. Okay, anyways.
This was,
Talk about it.
when we first started, look, the idea here was that we wanted to have the logo be incorporated into the sort of overall design of, you could see all the Kryptonian writing, and like this, I was really obsessed at the time with having the logos be part of the movie, so you can see I really went completely nuts.
I love that DC logo, by the way.
On that what?
That DC logo, I really love that logo.
That's the old logo.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of the peel down.
You don't like that?
No, I
Unique.
I always liked the old DC. I just felt like
Yeah.
I have actually a images from this dry erase that I did where I was working on the logo. One day I'll show you that. It's like when we were in Detroit. I really was obsessed with kind of fixing that logo and kind of making it a little bit
Unique.
back to its original.
Yeah.
The original vibe. But anyway.
Russell Crowe, man. Russell Crowe. What was it like working with him?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Russell's fantastic. He's never like outside of the moment, like very much analyzing every single thing that we talked about, every single thing that's happening. He's really in it 100% all the time, and really was excited. I think partly because he liked Rondor Beast.
Yeah.
Sorry, I always gotta.
You got to point that out.
One thing about the Rondor Beast that's amazing and that needs to be acknowledged is that the Rondor Beast, for the entire 3 movies when we were working, we'd always say, like, let's go back to the beginning. And we'd literally say, to the Rondor Beast? That was like the joke that we all had about what the very beginning is. Because the very beginning, like, obviously the Rondor Beast is like
Right there, the first shot.
one of the
Krypton.
first things.
Yeah.
So that was always an early reference that we had. So anytime, I think it's cool to say, let's go back to the Rondor Beast whenever you want to talk about going really back to the origins of anything.
Even the designs of the costumes too. Like talk about
Yeah, we wanted to with Russell's costume, and even like the Jor-El armor. It always had. I really like the idea of that kind of slight, almost like bone.
Yeah.
It does look very organic.
There's the
vibe. And there's a little contrast to the Zod. The Zod costume has a little bit more of a metallic vibe to it. I always love that when he just blows it away.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
He's like, I don't like what you're saying.
0 Fs from Zod
At all.
for the council. I always thought also, like, we always joked about the fact that a movie with a council, I always said I would never make a movie with a council of elders.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were always laughing because, like, immediately
He just goes, nope.
Yeah. No, also just like the concept, like, I used to make fun of movies that had a council in it, and I was like, oh, geez, I'm doing it myself, so it's fine.
We're doing it again.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Not only doing it, but it's like really kind of like marquee.
Yeah.
So that was pretty fun.
No, but this, I love this exchange between these two, the contrast between these two too.
Well, also just the notion that I think that Zod was like, sort of, probably just assumed that Jor-El would
be okay with
be
this.
down with like this notion.
And he respects them too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think that for Zod, Jor-El would be an obvious ally in in what he's trying to do. And of course,
Of course not. Yeah.
Then there's the.
I was going to ask about.
I think we had a little bit of. I think that's Rich Citrone.
Yeah. Citrone's there.
Citrone's there. And then we see him again. I think he has 2 parts in this movie.
He's all over the place. Is that him? No, that wasn't him.
Pretty sure that's him. Yeah, that's
It
him.
was that him? That's him right there.
Yeah, that's the trunk for sure.
That's awesome. And then you got that. I love that technology that you for the Krypton technology.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you.
President,
All right.
thank you so
Well, cheers,
much.
man.
Oh, cheers, brother.
Yeah. Cheers.
That's a
Full
man of
circle.
steel.
Yeah,
I wonder why
exactly.
they put a
A half of blood orange in it.
and also this is rosemary.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Obviously, because because Clark had that love of rosemary.
That's what it was.
About quite a bit.
This is Drinks with Zack Snyder. Everybody.
No, we hadn't established that in the canon, but I'm sure it's
Something like that, right?
sure it's true.
But this whole sequence right here is just amazing.
Yeah, so that technology of the when we talked about having the robots be able to have that sort of liquid geo, we call it liquid geo.
Yeah.
That kind of weird, which you see later in the history lesson. That kind of where it's almost like pewter that forms into different images that allows you to sort of tell the story of the movie and or communicate. So that was a cool. That was
It's really awesome.
cool piece that we had.
Yeah.
There's a really we shot a bunch of shots of Russell did. It's not in the movie when when the animal gets killed. He did quite a long sequence where he kind of like prayed over it and talked to it. It never ended up in the movie, but it was really incredible.
That would have been cool to see.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
But
I mean, obviously, you have Russell Crowe. You want to utilize.
You really do.
Yeah, as much as possible.
It was cool. This was a cool set.
Yeah.
This was in Vancouver. We built a big tank, and then we had the set pieces lowered down. Alex had built us this almost like this translucent kind of dome that we just put into the tank, and then Russell he did have to swim up into it, so it was a bit of that's a bit of swimming.
Yeah.
And then this piece we built on the side of the tank where he climbs out with the green screen back there.
Yeah, we have that codex.
He's got the codex.
Got the codex.
He's got to go put it in
And Clark.
into his baby's
Into his
blood.
yeah.
How would you do that?
I know.
But
How dare he, right?
this is always cool. Like I always like this
The little free fall right here.
this concept. Like
Yeah.
what is he doing?
He knows. He knows.
does, he knows.
Yeah, there it is.
He's got a well-trained friend.
Exactly.
That's why he was so moved by at the end when he died.
Yes. Yes, that makes sense now. He had a connection.
Also,
he had a connection with him.
I did always like this foreshadowing of the black suit too, which I think is really kind of cool.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, because you have the armor above, and then you have like the suit underneath, and like the way that it's designed and everything. And of course, it's a callback when it comes to, I guess you could say, the nightmare scene of this. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, like he's shot.
Yeah.
The nightmare scene was really when we started talking about because like here he is dying, and so that bit there was a bit right there where Russell gets off and goes around to the creature and cradles it while it's dying, and it's really has this beautiful moment with it that we shot. That didn't make it into the movie.
That sucks.
But it was really
That would be cool.
It was really moving.
Yeah, and then of course we got this right here where it's like, hey, Earth.
Yeah,
that's a good
why not?
place.
That feels cool.
Yeah, I think
They're
it'll be
primitive.
Yeah.
Look at them.
Yeah, they got this sun thing that he might, drink in all that and become a little.
He'll be a god there.
Yes, exactly.
But the I always felt like this mythological part of the movie where basically how much do they know about Earth and about what will happen, and of course we know that there's a scout ship on Earth, so they do have some knowledge of Earth and what it means to be there.
Yeah.
Except I don't know how much, based on the wreckage of the scout ship, how much they knew about it, but then when the ship clearly crashed on Earth, we don't know what caused that.
Exactly.
That's another movie
Yeah.
that we have yet.
Yeah, I know. When's that coming?
And
Anybody?
then,
Okay.
and then of course there's the chrysalis that's open that we don't know who's in there.
I don't know. Yeah, that's always that question, right?
That is really one of the,
Who's in the open
that's
pod,
really one of my
Zach?
best. That's a 3-movie. Oh, I think. Do we show the open pod in 3 movies? I don't know. I think we showed it in 2 for sure.
I think in Justice League there is you see the open pod in there.
I think it's only in 2 movies. But it's definitely
not BBS. Yeah.
the open pod in Justice League is definitely. I remember I had to really analyze even like the hand where he wiped his hand across the thing. You had to get it all
that.
exactly the same.
So who's in the pod, Zach?
I don't know. Let's talk about it.
Okay. But this scene right here, the way that he just sending off his only child, and then of course the codex right here, and Hans Zimmer's score too, by the way, just beautiful,
Just incredible.
absolutely incredible.
I mean, I always wonder why, with what Hans did with this score,
Amazing.
with this Superman theme.
Yeah.
I always wonder. I often wonder why people would nostalgically long for the other one.
For the
Which I have no problem with. I love it.
it's a great score,
It's
but
a great score, but
it's for
this
that
is
Superman.
it's for that Superman.
Yeah.
This is so strong what he did.
So strong.
And also just the challenge of, say, of that, the challenge of okay, we have to write a theme for Superman.
Yeah.
And knowing what exists.
Yeah.
But still taking on that challenge. I find that really cool. This was always cool, the way that, I always love the way we designed that with the shit.
I love this shot right here, very Apocalypse Now.
It's Apocalypse Now. What are you talking about? Very Apocalypse Now?
Yeah.
It's Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's Apocalypse Now.
And then this shot right here of him putting on the armor right
What's
there,
cool
too.
about, of course, this armor is all of it was what? CG. There's no armor. No real, not even that armor.
I know, that's
All
what's
this is
crazy. We've seen the behind the shots where they're wearing the the mocap PJs, and it's like, what? That was what?
Yeah.
Yeah. The fact
Also,
that
there was a huge fight scene I drew where
Really?
at this scene, where they're fighting Zod's forces in the doorway of the Citadel, and they're and Kelex and Keylor. I think I drew a whole thing where they go out and run and where Kelex sacrifices himself. Beep, beep, beep. He runs out and blows himself up and blows up one of the drop ships.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a whole fight I had designed for that scene.
And then this showdown right here. Michael Shannon, by the way, working with him. How awesome
He's
is
the
that?
best.
Yeah.
The thing about Shannon that's amazing is his sense of humor is really incredibly dry.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say.
Yeah, no, he's hilarious.
Yeah.
And no one can tell when he's joking.
Yes.
And he literally will scare you. Half the time you're frightened. And he's like, what's going on? Why are you
Yeah, you're like, wait,
scared?
did I upset you somehow?
Yeah.
Did I do that? And then he's just joking. I know. I was just talking about how he was in what was it called? Bullet Train, and I forget that he's in there, and he's very dry in there too. But then of course we come back to Zod, and the fact that obviously the line that we all know from Zod from the original Superman is kneel before Zod, but I mean
Yep.
he really makes his own line when it comes to his Zod, which
Yep.
of course we see, which is I will find him. I don't know how many people utilize that GIF or whatever the heck, but
Yeah.
but this
No,
fight
he's-
right here.
That's where he got the scar too,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
Look at this. This is nice. And again, CG suits.
that's crazy. Just
How is that? How long ago was this movie? 10 years ago?
yeah, exactly.
Still,
It's looking really, really good,
it
dude.
holds up pretty good.
It does. It really does.
I have that gun that Weta
Yeah.
built those guns.
Weta.
Yeah, Weta built those guns.
That's cool.
Weta built our guns for Rebel Moon as well.
Yeah. So they're gonna be great.
Yeah, they're going to be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this right here, you got the mother
Yeah.
going, should I do it? And
We're gonna-
this whole thing right. Oh man,
Let's launch.
drama right here.
Look at that.
Good. Look at that. So good. The coverage shots and the tears.
So good.
And we can't hear the score right now, but I hear it in my brain, and I'm just like, jeez.
Sorry, we're watching the movie now.
I know exactly.
Yeah,
Now we're
yeah.
both nerding out on this little artsy movie.
It's the shot where if you guys are
This.
with us, it's Jor-El just getting stabbed
Yes.
in the felt like the kidney.
Was it the kidney?
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I was like, eh.
It's like
You know,
it's
could
a
be.
low blow. It's
It
not-
is a low blow, yeah. I mean, enough to do. I mean, this fall right here is bam.
This is a hard fall. and
That's a
I'm-
hard fall.
I'm really.
Every time I see that, I go, phew.
Yeah.
Man, that stuntman.
Russell said to me, he goes like, "Want the gladiator fall?"
Yeah.
And
That's
I
a
was
good
like-
gladiator
And
fall.
of course, I was like, "Yes,
Do it.
please.
Do it. Because every time I see that, I go, oh my God, I
Yeah.
felt that.
Yes, please." I will take gladiator fall if you're willing to give it to me.
Ah, and then this right here. Jeez, look at that look. Look at those eyes.
Yeah, no, he's-
Shannon. Those eyes. He just, yeah, like you said, you don't know if he's joking or not. It's just those eyes. God, look at that. Feora? Yes.
Ancha? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Amazing.
See, now we're just watching it.
Yeah, now we're just watching it.
I know, exactly.
That's
Because it's so beautiful. And like he's,
Spaceship. Yeah.
yeah, it goes right up there.
It's cool. They got it, and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to shoot it down, but
no.
nope, not happening. Sorry.
Yeah, it's cool.
So cool.
Finally, the
And then-
council got its shit together. Yeah,
Exactly. And I love this shot, the last shot we see of Shannon right here when the light's like on him.
Yeah.
I love how when he looks up with the scar right there, beautifully shot. Like
Yeah.
that shot right there. So beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. God damn.
That's good weirdo space movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. I guess we could have made a whole movie on Krypton, really.
Really. Right?
Right?
Jeez.
Well, it's
You know,
under this also, like, you know, the design is really cool.
The costumes,
this
everything.
notion that it's underneath that kind of crust, you know, where like below them, you see that's kind of like ribs,
Mm-hmm.
that you go through that crust and go down into like sort of the body of Krypton is underneath.
And then this
These
right
guys
here.
had those crazy helmets. Those are all CG as well.
That's all CG too?
Yeah.
Oh my God. But yeah, this whole this speech right here from Shannon is just It's like, did he lose his voice screaming like this? You think your son is safe?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh God.
I love that. Yeah, Shannon's the best. He was really
the best.
And also these, you know, even just the design of those like weird shackles.
Yeah, that's
You
pretty
know?
cool too. Yeah, because it's like that.
They
Yeah,
kind of
around
bind
his
you like
neck.
this, so you can't.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, there's that line right there. I will find him.
Look out! They're gonna get caught in these phalluses.
Yeah, because obviously when it came to like the original Superman, when it came to the Phantom Zone or whatever the heck,
Yeah.
you know, so you wanted to do like an updated kind of version of that. It's kind of right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That they get projected into the like Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
You know, was really like a cool like this ship, you know, is basically a projector.
Yeah.
You know, to take them in, and so you had this huge. Even like I love that like
Yeah, with the
weird particulates.
yes on the
yeah.
lens. Jesus,
Yeah, it's cool.
Just those details, man.
And then you get to really get a good look at Krypton here.
Uh-huh.
And then here they are with this sort of dimensional portal that we had a lot of fun kind of designing to go into the Phantom Zone.
Sure.
Clearly just some sort of dimensional sort of rift that those little, see those little
Goes right
things are
through.
kinda like,
Yeah, the little tentacle thing
Yeah,
with the
it's
balls
cool.
on them. Yeah, that's really cool.
shoom,
Just swallows it right up.
Gonzo.
Octopus.
That's a bad jail.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, you don't want to go there.
No, you don't want to go there.
Yeah, you don't want to get sentenced there.
CG.
Not for sure. That's all. That's CG.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It's insane out.
So those suits were. Oh wow.
Yeah, those suits don't exist. Did anyone? Do we know any? Has anyone ever built one of those for real, like a cosplayer?
Probably. We got to seek that out. Anybody
Yeah.
out there?
Is there anybody out there who's ever built?
And if
like,
you haven't, start
Chorel
now.
armor for real?
Yes. And I love this right here too, where she's just like, all right, I'm just looking
Look
at
how
the
great she
planet.
looks
taking-
in this
I know
shot.
she looks great.
She's just like, okay,
She's accepted her fate.
yeah.
Yeah. She knows her son is gonna be okay. Look at that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
There's nothing left of Krypton.
Nope.
I guess Chorel was right.
She's like, yep. God, should
He
have
was an
listened.
environmentalist.
I know. It's like he was telling me this whole
The
time.
core
Yeah.
was pretty unstable.
But yeah, this shot right here is cool.
Yeah.
I love that shot, and then just right there.
Jesus.
And then I remember the first time I watched Man of Steel in the theaters, and I was going, okay, are we gonna get like, okay, we're gonna get the spaceship crashing down, we're gonna get Jonathan and Martha finding the baby, and then of course we're gonna get a montage of him learning his powers and all this stuff. But I love the fact that you just went, nope, grown up on the boat.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember. I was patting. I was like to my friend, and I was going, dude, he just stepped. We're now present day. This is great because we've seen that before.
Yeah.
You know.
And we get a little bit of it in the flashbacks.
Yeah, of course. But
like right out of the box, yeah, we were like,
because
that cut to the crab boat. Mm-hmm. And I knew we had the shot of it.
Yeah.
Landing on the wave.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's
perfect.
That's a good
way to do it because we're seeing that.
Look,
we're like,
look, that's the Kent farm too.
Oh yeah, it's like we're gonna do it, and then it goes right to this, and you're like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on right here? And I'm like, oh, this is great. And we got Clark just like greenhorn on the, there he is. Yeah, I love it. I love the greenhorn line.
This was funny because when we were shooting this, I don't know if I might have said this story before, but when we were shooting this, we were like, it was off of Vancouver Island. And we were shooting, and when we were in the cockpit during that sequence where they're like, give me the binoculars, it's coming right up. I remember we were in the cockpit, and I was watching, I had like a handheld monitor, and I was like, are we going too close to those rocks over there? That shouldn't be my job, right? Like to monitor how close we are to the rocks.
Yeah, there should be somebody else handling that.
I'm trying to do the
you're trying to direct a movie.
The movie part, but I feel like we're going close to the rocks. I remember the captain of the ship go, oh shoot, the actor knocked the autopilot, he shut it off with his knee by accident. This guy, and so he goes, oh no, we might hit the rocks, and then they had to drive us away.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy knocked the.
That guy did.
That guy knocked off. It wasn't his fault, but it was pretty
stuff
funny.
Happens.
I was like,
but I always found it funny too because when Clark gets knocked over by the guy, it's almost like Clark had to, if he saw the guy coming, he had to actually do it because obviously, if he were to knock into Clark, he would just bounce off.
If he didn't know,
like the Batmobile.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he had to kind of give into that.
He had to hide himself.
Exactly. That's what I always liked about that. He had to give into that little knock right there. And then this right here with the
save these guys.
That's gotta save them.
These Coast Guard guys were hilarious because we had real Coast Guard guys.
Did you?
Yeah, that was a real Coast Guard helicopter that we landed on this set we built. So that whole Arctic, Bright Arctic or whatever it's called, the heliport, we built that in a parking lot in Vancouver. And then so I was in the helicopter. So these shots were done, on a...
Show those abs!
Yeah, that's good. on a camera ship. This shot right here is for real, right? That. It looks like a full CG, but it's a real helicopter, lifting off of that.
Yeah.
Off of the and we also built that piece of I-beam that bends underneath him, so.
Was part of Henry's audition was to yell like he does in this movie?
No, we should have.
Because he yells very well.
He has to do it.
I love the struggle that he has because even Superman struggles,
Yeah, that was a heavy thing.
It was a heavy thing.
Yeah.
Superman.
Well, that was the thing we talked about also. At what point, what level are his? How strong is he?
Yeah.
And he's evolving, right?
Yeah.
So, how?
I love this.
How much power does he have? Can he lift a giant ship up over his head?
Exactly.
Maybe not. Not at this point.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, he doesn't know.
Yeah.
And so, if he thinks it's heavy, it's probably heavy.
It is, yeah.
But if he, in his sort of learning.
And I think that's what you emphasized was the fact that he can struggle with something like that, and then to immediately flash back to when he's struggling with his powers here as a kid. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this. I love this
cool.
Right here too, especially when Diane Lane comes in.
See, that's in you see him just starting his X-ray powers are starting to he can sort of see through the walls. He's pipes and stuff. I remember when we were working on that.
Yeah.
It was cool to kind of
because you have to imagine
overlap.
Growing up and all this. Obviously when you're growing up and you have all these senses that are just showing you all kinds of things. And Diane Lane, of course, just kills it right here.
Yeah, no, she's amazing. By the way, Diane Lane, love her so much.
Yeah.
She's
fantastic.
Solid presence throughout all the movies.
The world's too big, Mom. That line.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I remember that was one of the main things when I read the script originally, and I read this scene. I thought, wow, okay, this, I know what to do with it,
Yeah.
because it felt so relatable, because I think the thing with Superman, the danger with him, of course, is always like, oh, is he not relatable? Is he not so powerful that like, do we don't care?
Yeah.
Because there's a chance that when you watch him, like this guy can fly, he has no problems,
Yeah. So everybody looks at him like this god. But
Yeah,
it's like, but he's, he's
what are his
relatable.
struggles? Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think that was
Really
that
emphasized.
was really such a strong part of what David was able to get into the script.
I think Jason Momoa is like over
Yeah,
there
Jason's
somewhere.
right there.
Yeah,
He's
you
right
see
on
him?
frame.
There's something right there. I saw some hair. Saw some of his hair
Whales.
flowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He called the whales.
And I love, and the song that you use right here, Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
I love this song. That riff, that it's just so perfect. I love that song. And I love Chris Cornell. But yeah,
I remember
love
when we were shooting this, like I took that B camera.
Look at that beast.
Bill Daglish and I took this B camera and we were running around shooting all these like out of focus shots. I just said, okay, let me just shoot some cool out of focus shots of, some shenanigans, pieces, details, like the bucket with the water in it and all that. I was just shooting that on the side while everyone was getting ready. I was like, oh, here, give me the camera while we're waiting. And I remember thinking like, they were saying like, those shots are never going to be in the movie. But like, they're literally the trailer of, also the trailer is like,
Had those.
the first trailer is like only those shots. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, trust
They
me.
set the mood,
I
man.
was like, trust me, this is cool.
Yeah.
If I was always like, if I can get an out of focus shot in a superhero movie on purpose, then my work here
Succeeded.
is done.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's literally true.
Perfectly succeeded right there.
Yeah, like I shot that shot out of focus on purpose.
Yes. And then we got the dick splash line, which everybody likes.
Yeah.
The dick splash line.
Big splash, yeah.
Was that
That's
Goyer
about
who
as
wrote
far
that?
as you can go. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
about as far as
Goyer.
you can go PG-13.
Yeah, right.
And this was like an early stunt we did.
Is it?
Yeah, crashing
Okay.
this.
I love how you had the stop come out.
Crashing this.
Real quick. Yeah. Just a
Crashing
little
this-
comedic moment
Yeah,
when
it's
this
funny.
is happening.
Crashing this bus into the river was a little bit of Mike Justice making a little dual appearance
Nice.
because he's I forget the name of the giant guy. He's the giant guy too.
So I always forget his name
Kovacs
too.
or-
Yeah, I know.
I forget his name. He's that guy too. He's got another dual.
You know what we're
role.
talking about.
I was also saying like Sam Wynn. She's probably the only named character who plays two parts in the DC universe, right?
It's true, right?
Because
She was-
she's here and she's also
So in Justice League,
and
as,
she's also on Themyscira.
Themyscira, there we go.
Yeah.
She's an Amazonian too.
These kids were awesome because we shot this in Vancouver in the tank. And we had that bus on a hydraulic, and we had to like submerge it. And those kids had to like they couldn't, it was a little bit sketchy.
Yeah.
Right? They were like, okay, we're gonna drown these children.
All right, hey, all right, action.
Yeah, let's sink the bus.
Yes.
Guys, don't drown.
Yeah, please
and
don't.
The way we did it was, you can't tell, but the edge of the bus is right. We cut the bus in half. So even though it looks like they're like, I can't breathe, like it was like a 1 foot for them to like pop
Yeah,
their
to
heads
get
out.
yeah.
So
Safety.
it's pretty.
Don't worry.
Pretty
No children were in danger, people.
No, they
It's
weren't in
fine.
danger.
We're fine. Not even this bully right here.
Not in true danger. Not in true danger.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. We got some good stuff from Kevin Costner coming up.
Yeah, this swing was always like iconic to me.
Yeah.
Having this swing be was sort of because we use it again later on as this and I think I took a bunch of Polaroids of it.
Yeah.
Because I loved it so much.
Because we see it in Justice League again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the house, was built in Illinois, and there was kind of a piece of the farm, like some of that stuff is there. The house itself we built, right? And it was there. We kept it there for both movies.
Yeah.
And then we built it again in England for Justice League, because we built the Kent farm on out in a field in England for Justice League.
Yeah. I remember you talking about that too. But working with Kevin Costner.
No, he's the best.
Jeez.
Kevin is so kind and really again, super intuitive.
Yeah.
And really, you are my son.
Oh God, that line just makes me choke up every time.
Yeah, and I think that for Kevin and for that moment, he knew that's where he was going to go.
Yeah.
Right. And so even all of this performance is headed toward that moment, and he knew it, and we talked about it a lot. And we shot this in 2 days. This little scene.
Really? 2 days.
Because we in this low light, it took us. It took us 2 days to get it, because it was a little bit tricky because the sun was almost going down, and so we cross-shot that little sequence.
You got a father that's saying basically it's hey, should I let those kids die? And he's like, maybe. Geez.
Yeah,
and that sets up, of course, the
I love that
tornado scene a little bit.
Yeah, I do love the maybe.
Yeah, and the way that he delivers it too, because he doesn't. It's almost like he doesn't want to say it, but then he's just but then he's just the way that he says it.
No, I know, and that's what I think is so.
Yeah.
But that's what the sort of, I don't want to say realism, but that's the sort of intensity of what he was able to sort of bring to it, as far as what a real father would feel about his real son, about protecting his son, but also protecting the potential world-changing power that this kid has. And I think that's really sort of the theme of the movie in a lot of ways. They're not gonna dig you.
No.
They're gonna be afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna want to use you and stick needles in you if they can. See what's up. But yeah, the line right
They
there.
can find needles that will actually.
I know,
penetrate your
exactly.
Skin, yeah. But they probably can't. So.
No. Unless
That's
they're,
cool.
Yeah, unless they're made of kryptonite, right?
True, kryptonite needles. Good. That's the name of my rock band, Kryptonite Needles. That's
I think we're gonna start a band. It's gonna be called Kryptonite Needles. Everybody.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like
I'll be
that.
on drums.
Oh, is that your deal?
Yeah, that's my deal. Well,
That's
yeah,
cool.
I remember DJ. Yeah, DJ.
And
He's a
DJ
drummer.
also, yeah, he's a drummer.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. He's a drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
There it
line
is.
right there.
Yeah.
Even not even hearing it, I'm like.
You are my son. I don't know if you're watching at home. That's where we are right now.
That's where we are. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, yeah,
It's pretty
good.
intense.
Very intense. It's such a good scene.
Yeah. So I'm watching it. Sorry.
I know it's hard not to.
This was an
especially with that
interesting little prop and a little sort of concept. That teeny little
little key.
Yeah. What we knew.
Oh, we got the
This is
the
a
dive
great,
bar
this
scene.
is a great beat.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's
That's
Allison.
Allison
Yeah.
Crowe, right?
That's when I met Allison.
Nice. Oh yeah.
No,
See,
never said-
what we were
see,
going back to.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously. there's
They've had some nights together.
Something happened between
Yeah.
those two. I feel like it's pretty.
Yeah.
And then,
he
like,
emphasized it. That little smile right there doesn't
Yeah, it
say.
feels pretty
It's not just a little
It's not
flirt.
just like, oh, hey.
Hey, watch out, watch out. I like how Henry delivers all this right
This
here.
is so fun.
Yeah.
This was fun to do. This is literally a wish fulfillment scene,
Is it?
You always want to see Superman trying to not trying to not show that he's
Powerful.
he's Superman,
That he could
but
literally-
also it's like when someone you always love it when someone underestimates a guy that could literally rip your arms off and beat you to death with them.
Just the restraint that he
Yeah.
has right now, and the way that Henry is portraying that in his eyes. It's in the eyes. If you
Yeah.
look- again, it's always the eyes right there, and then he's just
you can
all
just
right.
reach into the guy's chest.
Yeah,
and
and
his
just
heart
pull
out.
it. Yeah, exactly. And then that right
Throw
there.
the can. That's
Yeah,
it.
and
That's
just
it.
think.
Now I'm gonna have to fuck your truck up.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry,
All
I'm
right.
not on the square.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it quietly
I'm
though.
gonna do it super quietly because I can.
Yes, exactly.
This is cool. And by the way, we built this truck like this.
Did you?
Yeah, this is
Oh wow!
not
So it's not via. It's
Yeah,
some
no,
of it's
that's no
VFX.
VFX. We had
Oh, wow.
We had it in the parking lot like that. It's crazy. The
Oh,
sparks
man.
weren't happening, but the rest of it.
Yeah, where's that statue? I mean,
Yeah.
we got all the other statue. Come on, Weta Workshop.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Yeah. You shouldn't hitchhike. It's dangerous.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not,
Not
not a
for
good
everyone.
idea. Not a good idea. Oh, here we go. Here she
Yeah.
comes.
And then the we had the big Sikorsky up on this kind of mountain. We had to move everybody up there. A lot of helicopters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There she is.
Yeah. And then Amy's
Powerhouse.
Just powerhouse. Yeah,
Just a total powerhouse.
Look at that. Not very
And I
heavy.
love that. That was her first meet right there.
Yeah.
And it's just so quick. She has no idea that, I just got, brought down by the love of my life right there.
Also, the thing that's cool is I was like, make sure like she should feel super light.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, going back to when he
Yeah.
had to like fall down with that guy tackling him, he's got to like fake it like, oh yeah, I got
guess
you.
this is what a
I could
person
literally
weighs.
do that with my pinky.
Yeah, like
but...
if a person weighs this much, I
Yeah.
don't know, like a sack of flour. I don't
Yeah.
know like what people weigh.
See?
Yeah.
There's
How
a,
often does he like carry people? Not
There's
very
a there's a Superman series right there. How often does he have to think
Like,
about
he
weight?
picks things up. Yeah.
Yes, and be like,
Yeah.
I can't. If I just lift
Yeah.
this water bottle, I can literally just
Yeah, a
crush
person
the whole
weighs the
thing.
same as a what?
Yeah, exactly.
To
A lot
him.
of calculations, and then what's his? I can't remember
Chris.
his name. Chris
Maloney?
Yeah, Maloney. Yeah, he's great.
Oh yeah.
I love him.
These guys measuring dicks.
Yeah, if you guys are done measuring dicks.
Yeah. Really?
But then, of course, he kind of gets like the last one when he goes like, she goes, "Where do I pee?" And she goes, "Oh, there's a bucket right in the
Yeah,
toilet."
no, he
It's
gets
like,
her a little bit.
yeah, he gets his little zinger right
He
there.
does touche her.
Yeah.
But it's pretty great. And then of course this guy was in Watchmen, right?
Yeah.
This guy.
That guy right
He's
there.
the Mars guy.
Okay.
Remember when he's like, "Where's Dr. Manhattan?"
Uh-huh.
Mars.
Ah.
He's the guy that comes and says,
Oh, okay,
And so,
yeah.
and that's why we have Mars on a screensaver later.
Ah, little Easter egg right
Yeah,
there.
there's a bit of an Easter
I
egg.
like that.
I think
Okay.
it's in the scene.
It's somewhere on the screen.
It's later on. It's when they
Oh,
come
okay.
back when he's asleep. You know, when he's got his feet up
Uh-huh.
and he runs outside.
And it has Mars on the
It has
wow.
Mars. Yeah, that was a Watchmen homage.
That's awesome. I love that.
Because we shot that movie, oh, look, there he goes again.
Yeah.
She's really having a lot of run-ins with Clark.
Yeah, and she has no idea. No idea.
Yeah, there's a bucket in the corner.
Yeah, yeah, I love that line. It's a bucket in the corner, so he
Yeah.
got his in right there.
Rude.
And she's just like, okay, I'll give that to you.
And there's a little bit of a Nikon commercial here.
A little bit.
I remember
A little bit.
Nikon, like, I can't remember whether they gave us cameras or not, but I kind of have this feeling they didn't, but we still did a Nikon commercial.
Yeah.
Maybe they did, actually.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm being
could
rude.
be. Yeah.
If you
Sponsor.
look, wait, look, where is he?
Where is he? He's
Is he-
he's like over there somewhere, right?
She's going to zoom in on him.
Yeah.
Wait, what's that?
Yeah, he was like over, to the right. Yeah, to the right.
Yeah, there he is.
Just chilling.
Just walking.
Walking with a long sleeve Henley.
Yeah, he's got a Henley on. By the way, it was a little cold for a Henley, but then
I'm
she's like,
sure it
what is
was.
going on with this guy? We built this set. This was a cool set because it
Yeah.
had this it had this little ledge on it.
Uh-huh.
And look at, that's a little hairy down in the ocean there.
Uh-huh.
But it was fun. It's always fun to have like a weirdo, cliff set inside of like a stage. Like
That right
like
there.
that. Because there's a camera in the crane and then into that little tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
That
good shot.
He bored with his X-ray, with his...
Oh, is that
vision.
okay?
Yeah.
So he just.
That's why
okay.
it's perfectly round. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that
no,
makes
okay.
sense. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we
Oh,
see
here he
that
comes,
right
yeah.
there. I love
Yeah,
that
yeah, here he
shot.
comes.
That's such a cool shot right there.
So he's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Henry always like that. He always got a little
Yeah, like a little
bit
head
of
rush.
Like a, wow, ow.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
my,
I can't
my
just
eyes
do
burn.
that constantly.
It'd be funny if he was like.
I remember this doodle.
wipe
This
off
was like
tears.
one of the early doodles I did, and I always loved that Alex used that super weirdo Art Nouveau style for the dropships and stuff.
really makes
for the Kryptonian
Makes
design.
it very alien-like.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Walking through.
Yeah. Very it's cool. This is like his first time in his home world.
And then we get our first. We hear Carla Gugino, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think we heard Carla on,
Probably on
in
Krypton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she's of course, fantastic.
Oh my God.
She's
the
great.
best. I love Carla. Mm-hmm. Anything with Carla is fine with me.
I know. I still remember the whole Catwoman thing.
Yeah, that could have been good.
Yeah, that could have been really good. She would have fit. And then I love this too because he doesn't know exactly like what is this? What is happening? And then he kind of gets hurt right here.
Yeah, because it's got it's a machine from his home world.
Uh-huh. Which he's probably really never experienced
In
before.
theory, I mean, if you want to really theorize, because those materials are Kryptonian.
Kryptonian, so
You would think that they would
I see
have
what
some
you're
sort of-
saying right there.
I mean,
Okay.
not to Yeah.
Not to just fully put it out there, but
But it's something to think about.
something to think about.
That's why it gives him a little gash on the arm.
Yeah.
Then this was always fun. We built this cool. This is the bridge, of course.
Yeah. And then, of course,
And Dad's
get
like
Russell
walking
Crowe
around.
back, and he's like, "What?
Yeah, that's weird.
Hi? Who? You?"
He's a ghost. He's
Yeah.
haunting. I always did like the idea that he was sort of haunting the scout ship.
It is a cool idea. I mean, because obviously, when we've seen that before, and we had the crystals before when it came to Donner and everything, and that's how we communicated. But I like the idea that it is kind of like he's haunting this ship.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Here we
up,
go.
Up.
Get ready.
Empty pod. We're getting it up. Yeah, that shot right there is haunting.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Of course, a ripoff from Planet of the Apes. I don't know if
I didn't
you're
even
familiar.
think about that.
Yeah, I was always obsessed with that. That shot was when I was a kid. I was scared shitless by that image of when they in the original Planet of the Apes when they crash and then he looks and one of the chrysalises had cracked and the person had aged inside of there because they'd been sleeping for
forever,
thousands of years or hundreds of years or however long it was. Yeah, that always freaked me out. So I thought we would do a version of it here.
That's pretty cool. I didn't even think about that. That's great. And then, of course, hey.
And then he's going to crush this thing.
Yeah.
We had it cool because we had this like weird it was like a tin.
Yeah, that he had to hold on to.
Yeah, like a thing that he could compress.
Yeah.
But it didn't look like that. It looked like a weirdo.
Yeah.
Like just like a weird parade thing.
Yeah, was it green or anything? Or yeah, probably had green on there. And I like this right here too because, again, Henry is just like the way that he delivers this right here, and how he's just like, "Hey, I got to cauterize it. Sorry, this is going to be painful."
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's Lois. She can handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof. But I like, yeah. But all of us kind of went, yeah. Jeez, that scream that she has right there.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Oh, here it is.
Here it is. That's the Mars thing that you're talking about.
Yeah,
It's coming. It's coming.
When he looks up. There it is. Yeah,
All right there. Yes.
Yeah.
Ah, okay, there you
That's
go.
Mars.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
If you look closely, you see like a little blue guy just sitting down right there.
Probably, we talked about it, I think.
Did you think? Yeah,
I
did
think
you?
we did.
Oh, that would have been cool.
I think we
If there
did
was a
talk
little,
about
if he was just sitting there. That would have been sweet.
Well, all right, so
Yes.
I guess that was 20 minutes, so we're going to, or longer.
Yeah.
We're going to take a small break. And guys, continue watching the movie, and we'll come back
Awesome.
in a few minutes, and we'll watch a little bit more. So it's break time.
It's break time.
But don't pause it.
Don't pause it.
All right, cool.
All right.
Much as I want opening the mic, opening the mic up.
Good.
Here we go. You're hot. You're hot.
Awesome. Welcome back, guys. We're still in the middle of the motion picture. And Steve, you want to say hello? Oh, look, there's Christina.
Hey, was just talking to her. This is wild. This is, what is it 10 years this year?
I guess,
So,
yeah, 10 years ago this year.
Full circle then. That's a big circle.
It's literally a big circle.
Is that probably not the, how is that circle, that 10 years compared to like what you anticipated while you were making this?
I guess that's interesting. Yeah, I never really thought about it. Like if you had asked me then, like in 10 years, what do you think will be happening? I probably would have said, I don't know what I would have said. It's an interesting, what I thought, would we be into another Superman movie by now or some things like that? Probably. Mm-hmm. I would have thought that at the time. Although I did have this crazy idea that we'd be expanding the universe a little bit. Evidenced by the, LexCorp oil truck and the
All the Easter eggs.
Wayne Industries, satellites and whatnot. So yeah.
How much of that was that stuff that you were planting as seeds for? Obviously, those that can go anywhere, or like how long? At what point did you know that this is like a 5-part kind of arc that you were putting
It
together?
was right after this. Like I had made some notes about potentially what I wanted to do. And so I tried not to contradict any of that in this movie. And I think it was just, this was a fairly long shoot. So I had a lot of time to kind of think about how we would manifest some of those ideas. And so I think I had a pretty good handle on how not to mess it up. I guess is that
That's a fair.
Does that make sense? Because as you're forming it, like you would have to like not go down a road or enter some kind of introduce some sort of canon that would not be fulfilled or is contradictory to like what the potential outcome of the movie is. And obviously,
Yeah.
I mean seems obvious.
Yeah.
But when you're when the real goal in this case was the sort of establishing this Superman
Yeah.
continuity.
Yeah.
That was, and even in this sequence, we were in the Nightmare Superman sequence. I don't know if you're following at home. Zod's at the Kent farm right now in his black suit with the flapping laundry behind him. He's telling sort of the little bit of the flashback story to how he got to us.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because that's where Superman, you get the kind of the black suit in that scene, and it's a nightmare, but a little bit different than like the nightmare.
Correct.
Like post-apocalyptic.
Correct.
Is there any sort of a continuity to the thinking behind that?
Well,
or is
I
that...
mean, it was an inspiration certainly to the what would become this nightmare reality of the of what would be the Justice League continuity. I always loved this shot of Zod exploring the other colonies.
Speaking of shots that scream, show me more of this.
Yeah,
Like,
I always thought that this was like a really crazy world.
Yeah, I love those suits.
All the drop ships and the suits and everything. That's really cool. Yeah. And even just the sort of world engine spaceship, I don't even know, world engine spaceship / prison barge. It's kind of a cool combo. And then just this kind of exploration of the Kent farm. It's funny because we shot all this on stage, right? So we had shot a lot of, or all of the actual Kent farm stuff at the Kent farm. But this sequence, we were like, oh, let's do this on stage because we wanted to have that just slightly surreal sort of quality to it, And I think it worked really well.
Yeah, is that the background then? Is that actual from Plano?
I think they had done a scan of Plano, so all the scale was correct, but it was all then generated.
Cool.
It wasn't photographed.
Actually, I got my driver's license in Plano.
No, you didn't.
I lived in the
cool.
Chicago suburbs, and
that's cool.
the waiting the line is way faster at that DMV. So we went there.
That makes sense.
So I almost came out to check it out, but I was busy when you were there.
Was that when we were shooting?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Well, not when I got the driver's license, but
But we were close by.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I still have a couple of those skulls in the house.
How many actual skulls are in that
I
shot?
stole a bunch of them. I think we had a couple hundred.
Oh wow.
That wasn't a small amount. Because all that, him going down, we had like a rig where he went down, and those were real skulls that he went down in. I mean, real. They're made of foam, but
Harvested the skulls to.
yeah. But then I grabbed a couple. Like, you got to grab a couple skulls.
Yeah.
They're easy to grab.
It's an evocative shot.
Yeah, it's cool. I think that the thing that's interesting about even just sort of the mythological expansion, Superman expansion, I think one of the cool things about this technology of the spaceships and the environments, Alex really did an awesome job kind of creating like an alien world, but also not, making it too crazy where like you couldn't relate to it. That's always the challenge with sort of sci-fi worlds, like that they're not completely so abstracted that they're not, you don't know where like people fly the ship from or any of that. I thought it was a really good mix.
Yeah, it's a good sci-fi fantasy, but also kind of a believable evolution of.
Yeah, I think that's tricky. We built this. This location was inside of a derelict. It was like a child prison, not a prison, or like a detention center for kids.
Mm-hmm.
That was defunct in Vancouver, and then we turned it into the NORAD or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no! I thought it was, and then interesting, like those real breathers. Oh, there's Sam Wynn. Then we were just talking before about the fact that she shows up again on Themyscira, but that as a different character.
Yeah.
And then we were trying to figure out maybe if she's the same character.
Well, I know there was
But I don't think that's-
rumors or theories that there is some Kryptonian lineage in the Amazon since the Kryptonians
There absolutely
crashed
is. There absolutely is.
Oh, yeah?
I do believe that whoever the chrysalis escaped from the chrysalis on the scout ship ended up briefly in Themyscira,
Oh, interesting.
and some of their maybe that's the great grandfather of.
Yeah, so the same
That would be cool.
House of Wynn.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she had a great scene in Justice League too.
Yeah.
That was restored in the right version, so that was awesome to see.
Yeah, that's fun. We were talking about also earlier about how the interesting thing about Justice League, and we'll talk about it more, but that the, shot in 143 and shot specifically for, it was my vision and my dream to have that movie shown in IMAX, and that it was shot in that aspect ratio because of the IMAX screens, the big IMAX screens, not the rectangular, but the classic IMAX
Right.
film aspect ratio. And so it's exciting that we're getting to see the movie in that aspect ratio, because you think about like, okay, we made the movie, and a movie gets seen in, as a director, you want the movie to be seen as you envisioned it by the most people, I guess. And then as you go forward, you make the movie, and and that movie in particular, which never really played in the theater, but was designed for theater, you would say like, oh, well, you see it at its height, it would have been released on, whatever that is, 3,000 screens plus, in a non-COVID, non-bizarro scenario that our film was released in. So you have that sort of concept. And then on top of that, you would say, okay, so in my heart, I was like, oh, we knew we'd have however many IMAX theaters there are that have the correct aspect ratio or capable of projecting in the 143, which is like, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's not many.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, so I'm making this film basically for those theaters. It will be seen in other theaters, but that will be a version of how I want it to be played.
So for a wide release then, if that had happened, would that have gone out Because like they'll do this sometimes for like Chris Nolan will do this where it'll be a 166 for theaters and then 133 for IMAX.
It would have been 166 in the theaters. That was the compromise that I was going to make. I said, look, I'll make it 166 for the theaters, even though I got a lot of pushback, even just initially in conversations about it being 166, because they were like, oh, well, you know, it's not really supported by all the distributors, and that's kind of difficult. But everyone in the end was like, okay, I guess as a compromise, 143. They were like, geez, like I don't know how to do that. I think. Trying to think of recent films that were in 143. I know Ghost Story was in 143, and there was a couple.
Lighthouse, I think was.
Lighthouse, yes, exactly. And those were general release. I mean, general release, but like, you know, on a few theaters. So you would have had to. The one thing that's difficult is the crop, right? Is a hard mat for 143, because literally very few theaters have the ability to bring in a hard mat all the way to that dimension. I think there's a couple, but it's difficult. Anyway, in my mind, I was like, okay, so the number of people that will have seen the film in its intended format and, you know, correct aspect ratio and everything would be, it's going to be not a large number, because it'll only be whatever number of IMAX theaters can show it in that aspect ratio. That was during principal photography. So I was thinking like, oh, you know, it's cool to make a movie of this scale that is designed literally for this boutique experience. Everything else is a slight compromise, right? 166 is a slight compromise, but it's cool. But that giant IMAX format is what I really wanted people to see it in, and really the real intention of the movie, and the number of people I knew, even in its widest release, that were going to see it that way would be a fraction of the general audience, but still thought it was the best way to see it. And it was my intention to promote, if the film was ever released in IMAX, to promote the movie as this is the best way to see the movie.
Yeah, they always like see it the way it was meant to be seen.
See it the way it was meant to be seen. To date, the number of people who have seen the movie in the correct format is probably less than 20 people in the world, right? So this movie, this gigantic movie, ridiculous scale, everything about it, actually seen in an actual IMAX theater in the correct aspect ratio on the big screen is probably less than, I would say probably 18 people have ever seen the movie. So that's the exciting thing about what we're doing on Sunday, seeing the movie Universal City Walk, is that number will grow to like whatever 300, and I don't know what it is, but still a ridiculously small number
as a percentage of the whatever that total number is.
If you think about what the movie costs and what it does and the whole thing, it's literally a bizarro phenomenon that probably, it's a story that I've never heard talked about in the insane, exclusive,
the legend of the Snyder Cut,
exclusive coterie of humanity that has seen the movie actually in its intended format is pretty crazy. But anyway, that's an aside. We can talk more about that at some other point after we see it. And this was funny because when we shot this scene, we had a miscue on the. Do you see how that whole kind of canopy fell down behind him?
Yeah.
I think when we were shooting it, we had in the 7-Eleven, we had a cue for canopy. And I think the cue was canopy, but the guy operating it, his name sounded kind of like Canopy. And so when we yelled out, like I think we yelled at the guy's name and he thought it was Canopy, so he pulled the canopy and it fell. And it was only like, we could only do like, I think we only had one take. And then I was like, oh my God, okay, awesome. So then we had to like, they kind of jerry-rigged it back together and we got one more take out of it, but it was completely, DJ had to fix it with
Well, I don't think
With some
anybody
visual
ever
effects.
noticed until you just
Yeah.
pointed it out. So,
Yeah. That's why there's fire all over it. So
Yeah.
they were like, "Oh, put fire on it. You won't see it."
so did you spend more time with Michael Shannon on this, saying a little more or a little less?
Oh, yeah.
As far as his
No.
performance goes.
Yeah, Shannon. I don't know. No, Shannon comes out of the box pretty on point. I don't know if there's a more or less. It's more like about. I think if you give him my notes to him would mostly just be about like, oh yeah, remember like this thing we talked about, this idea, you know. So he'd be like, okay, cool, like right, I got it. Like that's that's like a thing that a subtext that he could
Yeah.
that he could work.
Well,
in.
because he's a meme for this movie for some of the lines that he just yells, but then also a number of his best lines in this are just completely understated too. So
Yeah.
he's got the full spectrum of Shannon is in this.
Yeah, you really do. It's the Shannon show.
With the Western.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the A-10 as an aircraft.
Yeah.
Not to have it in this movie.
Namek does not like it so much though.
Namek A-10.
No. You
Yes.
see, they replicated that shot in the Flash movie. He's got a trailer where Namek jumps out of the Batwing. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I saw the trailer the other day, but I didn't look at it. Like, I gotta analyze it.
Yeah, everyone was like, that's the exact same thing, but it's Keaton's Batwing though. So I was like, that's a great homage to this fight. Do you when you got this all charted out, do you have a clear point where like the second act ends and the third act begins? I feel like every time I watch this, I feel like every time I'm watching this, at some point I'm like, oh wait, this is just kind of full volume for the next hour.
It does roll pretty hard for
Yeah.
the next hour. It's one of those things that I think when we were editing the movie or talking when it was finished, and we would say like, oh, once
There we go.
Smallville battle starts, it's pretty much on.
Mm-hmm.
You're pretty much rolling to the end of it. You could
Yeah.
Like,
And it sneaks
yeah.
up on me every time.
What's that?
It sneaks up on me every time.
Smallville battle. Oh,
Like,
yeah.
because you think it feels like it's there's going to be a lull or something, and as you transition into the final battle, and then you realize like it just you pack it wall to wall.
Yeah, the only kind of downbeat is when Martha's looking at the photo album for a second,
Oh yeah.
and he's like, all right, I gotta go. It's like right after this, right?
Mhm.
But then he zooms out, so it's not very long. Yours cool. This fight was cool, and even just developing, the notion of like how they would move in the fight. Oh, there's a safe door.
Oh yeah.
So that, of course, was our first look Superman shot, right? I shot with
Yeah.
a Polaroid camera right there on that safe door, and I just had this, I don't know, for some reason I had it in my head that like Superman smashed into a safe door was a cool
Yeah.
like first image of
Well,
him.
what's an impressive thing to bend?
Yeah.
If you like that's a crumpled car
Yeah.
is not a
Yeah,
safe
not-
door kind of
not
makes a
good
point.
Yeah, like the size of that safe is pretty like legit.
Yeah.
And I think that was the notion that I had. Also, that it's made of steel.
Yeah.
I guess.
The Man of Steel.
Steel on steel.
I see what you're going for.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
I thought this was a cool Sears ad there.
Yeah.
Because Sears was one of our sponsors, and they were asking like how the store would be shown, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
You're gonna see it really a lot of it. And they were
How about
like,
you're in the
okay.
background?
I didn't know
kick
it'd
the
be
crap
like
out of Superman.
we're gonna throw a train into it. I don't think they knew that. They were like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. But you get good shots of the logo. I always love that. We built when we built that, we built like a train, and we slid it in there, and it was really, that was a cool set, with the train in there. It was really,
You built a train, as in.
it was just like a set piece that we kind of drove in to the, into the Sears
Oh, okay.
after it hits it. It's cool, like U-Haul. That was another one of our sponsors.
You got a lot of them in here.
Yeah. Oh, snap.
And a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, Ben does a good reaction there. Oh. And then Chris, all those shots, of course, we did in the parking lot, with him flying, but not flying.
Yeah.
I always thought that DJ did a great job with that crash, the helicopter crash.
The blades continue
Yeah,
spinning.
the blades into the ground there. It's all CG,
That's awesome.
This is good fighting.
This is the famous one where everyone
This
was
is like famous, like, you know, what would really happen if humans fought
Right.
Kryptonians, you know what I mean? Like, that's pretty much it.
Well, it was also one of the first visualizations where people say like, oh, that like anime style can kind of be
Yes.
brought to live action. People
Yes.
didn't think that could really be done until
Yeah.
this happened, and then everyone was obsessed with that forever.
Yeah, I always like that idea that, like, people, like, for so long, you know, we've seen Superman fight bad guys, human bad guys. And then, you know, and no one, you know what I mean? No one really ever thought about the reality of what that might be. Or not that they didn't think about it, but we never really saw that, you know? And even in our movie, we don't. Is that, oh, you can hear it in
Yeah.
there. Even in that, even in this, our Superman doesn't really fight humans.
Right.
You
Well, it's
know.
not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's kind of how I feel about it. But Fiora's fine to fight humans,
Yeah.
right? Because she's not.
Right. Not concerned about the collateral damage.
No.
Speaking of the sound, though, I think that's a really interesting thing that you're known as like a visualist, and if everyone talks about like your filmmaking style, are going to define it by the shots and the color and the lighting. But I think the sound is something that isn't really talked about as much, and arguably establishes the kind of vibe of the movie as much as the visuals sometimes. But that's not something you can really storyboard. Like at what point do you figure out what it's going to sound like?
Look, you know, I've worked with this guy Scott Hecker for since Dawn of the Dead. He's been on all the movies, and he's an amazing sound designer. And I'm a big fan of big sound. I always like it, and so, you know, I have no issue with really pretty intense and immersive soundscapes in the movies. So we always endeavor to, whenever we can, depending on the sequence, of course. Sometimes music drives these action sequences, sometimes sound effects, you know, depending on what. Yeah, here's the train that we had in there. You know, it's like that. But that's really the sort of personality of the scene comes across, I think, in a lot of ways, driven by the sound. You know, like you don't know what to. By the way, this cape shot, I was puppeting that cape shot. You know, it was me laying on the side with like my.
It's very good puppetry.
Basically, just waving it in front of the lens, the cape. Yeah, you know, obviously, I'm a big fan of like intense sound effects.
Yeah, well, it's so huge for the atmosphere. Like you can, it's establishes a level of gravitas that.
Yeah, it's the weight. It's literally, I think in this movie, it was literally a thing we talked
Right.
about quite a bit. Like this guy was like, I really want everything to feel heavy.
Well, that's such a big part of what you get with Zimmer and Hulkenberg. Also, with it, they obviously there's great music, but also there's an ambient quality to a lot of their stuff that outside of just the like the actual score, which I know on Army of the Dead, Junkie XL did a lot of that too, where there's just a lot of. You realize like, oh wait, that's actually the soundtrack that I'm hearing. That's not just. It's a rumble. It's a
Correct. It's not necessarily like a melody or a song that you can sing along to necessarily, but it's very much like a mood.
Yeah, and if you take it, like
Sustainer.
you wouldn't put your finger on it necessarily. I wouldn't. I mean, I'm sure you would, but if I was watching it until you remove it and you say, oh wait, something's not quite as not full.
Yeah, 100%. This is the.
Yeah, here's the
This
moment
is that
of-
beat that I would say is the only. This is their small rest. Yeah, this was a. We always laughed at like, oh, I guess he has to go kill those cops because they're the only ones that know where he lives. Really,
Yeah.
That he might be.
Well-
that he might be Clark Kent. You know?
Yeah.
Because like,
That's something that I thought was always interesting, though, that it's never said explicitly, but the more you kind of think about it, not just in your movies, but in the larger mythos, it almost makes more sense for everyone in Smallville to know, and it's just a secret that they all keep because they know like Jonathan Kent knew. They all know that it's important to protect.
Yeah, it's funny. It was a thing that I know that like in the canon it's like really protected, but I didn't spend a ton of time trying to protect it because like it's exactly as you say, like in a modern telling, the notion that he's wearing glasses so you don't know it's him is kind of ludicrous. So you have to like, you know, do a better job. You have to be a bit smarter with it. You know what I mean? So I think that was really the directive. I think for us, and more to avoid in a weird way moments where that would be like him not being him is necessary.
Yeah.
You know, once he gets to Metropolis, it's kind of not as hard because, you know, Superman is more abstract. It's in the like person to person moments. I always thought this guy did a great job. He was like a day player. Superman.
Yeah.
You know when he says call him Superman.
Yeah.
Like, it was like the most thrown away thing in history, which I thought was super cool.
I love that shot too because that's where you got a similar daytime version of that when they find the kryptonite then in BVS.
Which we shot in Bora Bora. We went down there and picked that up in Bora Bora.
Now, did you have to do that?
We
or
had
did
to
you
do
want,
it. It
yeah?
was really super hard to go down there
And
and
just
look.
couldn't get the same shot on a stage.
No, you
so-
couldn't do it on stage.
Yeah.
We tried, but it just failed. So we had to go literally to Bora Bora and like, you know, and just do some like a few days just kind of contemplating the shots, what we would do. It was pretty hard to do that at the St. Regis. Or was it St. Regis? Yeah, I think it's the St. Regis. I think we were at the St. Regis. Yeah, so that was difficult. No, but it was. I'm a huge. Yeah, we had a great time doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, on BVS, we went. I did that. We shot that at the very end. We went down to Bora Bora after we were done with everything. We'd come back. We had actually been here for quite a while, and then we went down to Bora Bora to pick up those shots.
Well, because that's
With
where
kind of a small crew.
we spotted. What's he credited as, the island scientist or
Yeah.
Because he's then in the scene with the kryptonite truck
Yeah,
also.
exactly. Yeah.
And you're like, oh wait, the same guy has been following it.
He went with them back.
Yeah. So he got to go to Bora Bora too.
He got to go
so-
both. Yeah. He was this. I can't. What is his name? Shit. Anyway, but I remember talking about like him when he came to Bora Bora because he was a stunt guy, stunt performer, and we were like, oh, that was cool. You did that day in Detroit. We also need you to come with us to Bora Bora. And he was like, what? Okay. So that was fun.
Going back to sound again, that World Engine. Is that a combination of, is that a specific mix of?
It was a huge
ambient
Hector, Scott, we did a bunch of, but we had it pretty early. He was working on it even from the start. And I remember him sending us all these different versions of it, constantly sending us different takes on it. You know?
Yeah.
It was always and then we evolved it, and then it got really.
Yeah.
It's funny because it became musical too. You know, in a weird way.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
it's rhythmic.
Yeah, it's its own thing.
And then that's such a big deal then, the way that Brent comes into BVS and Bruce's subconscious, and it's this traumatic.
Yeah.
And you imagine he's not the only one. That's like the whole world has this memory of this noise, just repeating.
Yeah, everyone's
So
pretty
it's-
triggered by that.
It's a very fitting.
This was a fun bit.
When did you?
And
When
this
did,
is literally, I think that this was true. This movie was shot on film, and true bleach bypass, like real chemical process. For the looks, is why the highlights are all washed out and all that. It's not digital.
yeah,
it's like-
it's very very tactile.
Yeah.
When did you start playing with the idea of Swanwick being Manhunter?
During it was during BBS really is probably when I joked about it because I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Because he never did anything that would contradict it, and also just the way Manhunter has been portrayed in its human form in the comics felt pretty consistent to me with like the way Swanwick exists in our, and so I always thought that was a fun thing that you kind of get to kind of mess around with in your mind, like me and the guys, and just kind of saying, would that be funny? Would that be awesome?
Yeah.
And they were like, let's just do it. Why not? It makes sense.
It's great retroactively too, because it's one of those things where people go back and they start looking at these scenes to see how does that fit in.
Yeah.
And there's that shot where Superman breaks the handcuffs and walks up to the glass, and everybody steps back except for Swanwick. So
Yeah.
it's like, there's something there.
That's cool. See, I love that.
It's more of that cape porn.
Yeah, that's good, Cape right there. Amy in a jumpsuit is always cool. We were in this, so we built this cockpit. We had the real plane for a lot of it. We shot a lot of the interiors in the back of a real plane at Edwards Air Force Base. And then we built a cockpit, of course. And then we had the real cockpit. We had all sorts of different versions of this to do because this movie, we had DOD for this movie. So we got a lot of assets from them. But, it's always hard to work with the government,
Yeah.
And even especially to make a movie, it's hard. It's, there's some things that they're like, they don't understand exactly.
So is the idea with this then that, because obviously you've got him earlier exploring other planets and they found the world engine and everything, so they can't, obviously can't just go, he couldn't have just gone and terraformed Mars without coming and getting the codex first, right?
Correct.
That was the key to the...
Yeah, and by the way, I think, it became, for Zod, it became personal, right? He wanted to torture the people of Earth, because of what Kal-El's betrayal, I think, what he would consider betrayal, of the people of Krypton. But yeah, there's more of that liquid geo. Look out. That's quite a defense mechanism. Well, I think we're going to actually wrap it up here so I can go and get ready for the live
Awesome.
Chat, Q&A after this movie. So get ready, stand by to head over to the Q&A. We're going to talk about all things Man of Steel and or whatever else questions everybody has. So thank you, and thank you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Really fun.
I like And how about this beautiful theater at Art Center? It's so amazing that the kids have a great place to show their films and that the school has a place where directors can come and it's state of the art and it's so beautiful. I remember seeing the designs, but this is actually, we've been so busy filming that this is the first time we actually saw it really completed. So it's so nice to be here. And how's our folks at Vero doing?
I think on the Bureau side, we're ready when we're ready.
We're ready, we're live! Yay!
Someone knows we're live.
Okay, so you guys just indulge me for a few moments here, but Zack and I wanted to say a huge thank you to all the people who have made this weekend possible. To our generous sponsors, to Warner Brothers in DC, in particular Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi. To our gracious host for the next 2 days, Art Center College of Design. Our host for Sunday, Universal Cinema, AMC at City Walk, and IMAX. And to Vero for hosting our live stream. Eamon, we wish you were here. I hope you're watching. To Jim Lee, who did these amazing art for our t-shirts. And I hope I don't butcher their name, but Shu Jie Ho Zhang, an Art Center student who did the Art Center posters, and John Stanford, and works for creating all those amazing posters. To our printers, Midnight Oil and Buffalo Specialties, who also donated all the shirts. To Bonds, to Weta Workshop, to Company 3, to our food and beverage sponsors, Anheuser-Busch, La Pizzeria Company, Hot Jam, Sodexo, to Superhero Charity, and 3 Ronin. And thanks to all our panelists, moderators, and you volunteers who really helped, setting all of this up. To AFSP for all their help and support, not only for this event, but also for their support for Zack and I, and also to the community throughout the years. And to Wesley Collar. Because without Wes, this event would not have come together. Wes. We are so thankful for all Wes's hard work and dedication, and most importantly, for the friendship. He is family. And most importantly, to the fans. A special shout out to everyone that is online around the world. It is truly amazing what this fan community has done, raising over $1 million for AFSP. But even more importantly, creating awareness and much needed discussions on mental health and suicide prevention. This amazing fan community has contributed to AFSP's ability to invest in new research grants to better understand and prevent suicide. In the past 5 years, it has given 200,000 people life-saving education and resources through AFSP's signature program, Talk Saves Lives, an introduction to suicide prevention. This program provides participants with a clear understanding of suicide, including the most up-to-date research and data on suicide prevention. Our fan community has helped AFSP to advocate for suicide prevention and mental health by sending over 129,000 messages to public officials over the past 5 years. Advocates had a chance to share their stories and promote suicide prevention. As a testament to their efforts, over 109 pieces of legislation at the federal and state level has become law since 2018. past 5 years, AFSP has hosted annually more than 400 international survivors of suicide lost day events globally. AFSP has also fulfilled over 1,000 requests for their Healing Conversations program annually. Both programs allow those touched by suicide a chance to talk, be heard, and help heal from their losses. These are just some of the ways that this community has contributed to AFSP's life-saving efforts. Now, more than ever, this work is critical, and post-COVID, the statistics are staggering. 1 in 5 people will experience some sort of mental health condition each year. The latest CDC data tells us that suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in the U.S., and although males make up 50% of the population, they're 80% of the suicides. Between 2020 and 2021, suicide deaths increased 4.79%. And most alarming, our kids are struggling more than ever before. Suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death for adolescents aged 15 through 19. And our young girls are now more at risk than ever before. 2021 data from the CDC Youth Risk Behavioral Study reveals that 3 in 5 girls felt persistently sad and hopeless. More than 1 in 4 girls reported that they seriously considered attempting suicide in 2021. And more than 1 in 10 girls reported that they attempted suicide in 2021. And almost half of our LGBTQ plus students seriously considered attempting suicide. This news is devastating. The time to act is now. We must make mental health a priority and advocate for more investment in suicide research and prevention on a national level. Everyone has a role to play in preventing suicide, and together we can learn the risks and warning signs and encourage those who struggle to seek help. We have shown that as a community, we can make a difference. Our actions have impact. But unfortunately, our job is far from done. So what else can we do? Learn the signs of someone who may be at risk for suicide. Reach out to someone who you think may be struggling. Connect those who are struggling to help. Share 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. With everyone's help, we can continue to move out of the darkness and into the light. We can give those who are struggling a chance for hope, and we can make a real difference. Thank you again for all your support. You know that this is such a personal thing for Zack and I, and it means so much to us. If you need help or information, you can go to afsp.org or call or text 988 if you are in crisis. And also, if you want to donate, please go to afsp.org/full-circle-donate. Thanks again for being here, whether you're here in person or here online. It means so much to us.
Debbie, thanks so much for that. The worthiest of worthy causes. So we really appreciate everything that you and Zack have done. So thank you. So we're going to spend a little time talking about the movie that you guys just saw and other things that you may want to ask us about. So let me introduce everybody. I'll start with my own self, and then we'll work our way up the food chain. I'm Ross Lamanna, chair of the undergrad and graduate film departments here at Art Center College of Design. It's also Zack's alma mater. And next to me is the man who is responsible for a lot of the eye candy that you saw, Alex McDowell, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. You're kind of famous around here, by the way, so thank you. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to go down the line here. This man is a movie producer and a director and a writer and a cinematographer, and I'm probably missing a few things as a director. And he's so good at these things that he actually has a verse named after him. So not too many people can make that claim. So thank you, Zack, for being here, and I think we'll have some fun.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So next on the list there, you may know her as Major Carrie Ferris, the first person to say officially that Superman is hot.
No one has ever argued with that statement.
Nobody ever went, meh, not so much. Her real name is Christina Wren. She's an amazing actress, and we are so glad to have her here with us. So thank you, Christine.
Thanks for having me.
And then down there at the end, someone else who needs no introduction. I love that expression. You need no introduction. Deborah Snyder, who is an amazing force of nature, movie producer. What else can we say? Actually, the real Wonder Woman is what she's known around here. So thank you as well for being on the panel tonight.
Happy to be here.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask a couple questions. They're kind of from the film students, and then I'll kind of throw in one or two from the online streaming folks. And then we want to open it up to you guys to ask some questions. So think of some good ones. Stick your hand up. We'll call on you. We'll bring a mic over to you, and we'll get going. We're going to try to do this in about an hour. So let's see how that goes. So I thought maybe I'd start with Alex, because we were kind of in the green room watching the movie with the sound down, and I've seen it several times. I haven't seen it in a while. I'm just sitting there with my mouth open because your Krypton, it kind of, there's your Krypton now. There's no other Kryptons, you know. It's like you really define that, and certainly define their ships and everything. It's just gorgeous. And then of course we've got you can segue into Smallville, which is just like classic, you know, Rockwell Americana, and then we've got Metropolis, which is kind of normal with a little overlay, and it all seamlessly works together. So the students wanted to know what your visual references were, if any, because I know you dreamt a lot of this up just for this world, the literally world of Krypton that you made for us.
Yeah, thanks. Well, first, thank you for inviting me, Zack and Deborah.
So awesome to have you. Thank you.
It's an honor to be here for this cause. And amazing to see the movie again. It's been a while for me, I'm afraid to say, and it's a great movie. So to your question, yes, there's a lot of influences. I mean, first of all, to have a chance to redesign the logo and to think about just the characteristics of this idea of the curves. First of all, the Superman S prompted the idea that there's no straight lines on Krypton. So as a designer, that was a underlying rule. So to go from that, we went to the organic. There's a photographer called Carl Blossfeldt, who you should check out, who was the first photographer to really photograph in extreme fine detail the sort of symmetry of plants. We looked at just a whole array of organic forms, shells and plants in this photography and Art Nouveau, but it all came down to this idea that the S prompts the entire visual language of Krypton, and it was to kind of build a history of that and to go back into a world where biology was the primary science, and the language itself, and and that premise really went through everything down to the lettering of the language, down to the very finest detail.
Great, thanks. That's amazing. It worked. I have a question for Christina, and this is a very important process question about how the motion picture business works. I read that you were cast in Man of Steel because Zack saw you in a hummus commercial. And now
This is true.
I want to first just take a moment to picture Zack watching a show that would have a hummus commercial in it.
By the way, it was not a obscure hummus commercial. It was a national spot. And I was watching mainstream television. It was like some obscure hummus channel. We're like,
Hummus
you know,
R Us.
Yeah, and then you were like, Debbie, find out who that is. And I was like, what? Yeah, find out who that is. I want her to be in the movie.
Thank you for doing it.
So what I want to know, Christina, is like, you're home, you're minding your own business, phone rings. Mr. Zack Snyder would like you to be in a Superman movie because of your work in a hummus commercial. How did that play?
So I was living in New York at the time, and funny enough, the commercial did not play in New York. So it wasn't like I never saw it, and I didn't. Yeah, so it kind of came and went for me. You know, I mean, I was happy to have a job. We filmed in Athens, which was cool. But I was out of town. I was at my friend's wedding, and I'm in the car with my parents and my then boyfriend and now husband. And so I get this email. I just check my phone, and I kind of laughed in the car, and I was like, bullshit. And my family was like, well, what? They saw my reaction. I was like, someone's punking me. Someone made up an email address, and this is ridiculous. And I had gotten an email from assistant at Warner Bros. Some, kind of, nameless email that said, "Hi, Christina, Hollywood director has seen your hummus commercial and would like you to audition for an untitled Warner Brothers project. Please send us a tape of yourself doing these sides." And I was just like, this is someone really, I have a friend who made up an email address and is just making so much fun of me. And thankfully, really, I was in the car with my family. They were like, you have to do it. You have to. In the off chance this is real, you have to do it. So I, tape it, but it was 3 lines. I felt like an acting exercise from school that was an open scene. And I was like, okay, is this, and it was a different character at the time. And,
wasn't the scene you coming into, I'm trying to remember this, what was
an office assistant first.
Was it? I'm trying
Yeah.
Because I remember. And did you do 2? Did you do a second?
No, 5 of them.
Yeah,
That's what I remember.
Yeah, I remember
5 different tapes.
It was 5 versions of the exact same line that were this is the angry version. Yeah. This is and I was like, see, I told you she was a genius.
Really though, because I was like, I don't know what kind of movie this is. Is this a comedy? Is it a drama? And then I, get a different thing back. They're like, they actually want you to audition for this character instead. And it was a military officer. Oh, right. That was okay. But that was the one where you did really a bunch of them. So yeah, I went in. Yeah. But I was like, is this sci-fi? Is this a political movie? I don't know. So they very graciously watched a ridiculous amount of audition tapes from me. But yeah, it was fun. That's how it happened.
It's funny. I remember there's a line in the hummus commercial where you say. It's this thing where there's this older Greek woman. Who whatever Christina's character's doing, which is normal, she sees as really offensive. There's one scene where she says something, she's like, she's a prostitute. And she's just being normal, but it's it was really funny.
I'm a Lebanese gal, so the yes. The very judgmental grandmother is something I was
landed
pretty
for you.
used to. Yeah, and it's my character, whatever, is conservatively dressed and has this giant platter of food and is hosting, but all the grandma can do is judge and tell me I dress like a prostitute.
Yeah, even though she's not dressed like a prostitute at all. Very conservatively dressed. Yeah, anyway, I don't know if it's online. Where is that commercial? Is it anywhere?
I have no idea. Yeah.
We should dig it up. We should definitely dig it up.
They're getting a lot of free press from you right
now. Yeah, they really are. Too bad we're not
Yeah.
mentioning the name of the hummus. They're probably mad about that right now.
It was Athenos.
Athenos. Well, there you go, guys. You know where to send the checks.
One of our other sponsors for the evening.
You are welcome, Athenos.
Thank you for my career.
Yes, that's cool.
No kidding.
Anyway,
I got to see this.
All true.
Yeah, there you go.
All true.
See, kids.
I can't remember how I if I recorded the commercial, because I remember I couldn't, I didn't have a DVR. I remember it was 10 years ago. I think I shot it with my phone off the TV, so I could be oh, this is it. This is the commercial. It's all bad, yeah.
And I had a really terrible blog, and this is how the casting director found me. She told me later, yeah, because I had recently someone was like, you have to start a blog. This is the same thing now where they're like, you have to be on Instagram, you know? And so I made a blog and she found, but it was like stupid, you know, because I didn't know what to do. Yeah. So put yourself online, I guess, is the lame
That's
advice.
awesome. That's great.
That is awesome.
And what an amazing job in the movie, look. No, yeah. I was right.
You now know how show business works. Welcome to it. So speaking of working in show business, Debbie Snyder, I was trying to do the math, and there are only a handful of people in our universe that produce movies of this size and this budget and what have you. And then there are way fewer women who are doing that. So, wow, pretty amazing.
Wow.
So I think a lot of people don't understand the word producer. It's like, well, what does that mean? And you see the credits and what have you. But and so obviously it could be a financing producer, like an executive producer, a creative producer, a budgeting, you know, a line producer, and it can be more than one. So I'm curious how you define your role or roles as a producer. And then as a second part of this question, I'd love to hear, if you want to tell us, what's your favorite part of the gig and what's kind of like going to the dentist?
Well, the budget is kind of like going to the dentist because no matter how much money you have, it's never enough money. It's just, whether it's a small movie or a big movie, it's never enough. And you always want to do more. And those are hard discussions to have, I think, with the studio and with your departments who are presenting their budgets and everything. So I don't like that part. I think planning it and finding the people and like putting it all together and figuring out the methodology. You know, I see my role, it's my job to bring the director's vision to the screen and to fight for that vision. And it doesn't mean we don't disagree about things, because we do, but sometimes.
Occasionally.
Occasionally. But he's, at the end of the day, the director, and it's my job, and we talk about it.
You're going to say, at the end of the day, he just does what I say.
No. No, at the end of the day, like, I think it's important, especially in our relationship, not just being a husband and wife team, but as our relationship as producer and director, to be supportive. And we might, like, debate and talk about things, but then we always have a united front. So if we're going to the studio or if there's something, whatever it is, and whoever we're talking to, we have a united front. And I think and we have each other's back. And I think that's everyone we surround ourselves with on the crew. A lot of people we've worked with for many years. It's like a family. It's people we trust. And, you know, allowing them to actually do their jobs and do their job as well, you know, just kind of makes it all, you know, work. But I don't know, my job is crazy because sometimes it's about like growing wheat or, you know, like you become an expert on these really strange things. But I think at the end of the day, it's about, you know, figuring out what the plan is, from casting to casting your crew, figuring out the schedule, the budget, and then all the things and problems that come along the way, because every best laid plan gets redone in production. So you're always starting over and you just have to kind of be nimble on your feet. But I love it. Like you know, when I say going to the dentist, like, yeah, the money is always something that I don't really like talking about, but like to be able to create these stories that will live on, you know, much longer than us, that touch people in a way, makes them laugh, makes them think. I feel so lucky to be able to do that.
Great, thanks. I mean, for those of you who haven't been on movie sets, just watch the credits and you see, you know, how many people are involved. For those of you who have, you know, you realize what an undertaking it is. I'm sure if the guys who planned D-Day came back and saw what Debbie does, they would go, oy. I'll leave that to you. That looks too hard. So anyway, I have a question for Mr. Zack Snyder here, and I apologize if you've answered this for the fans before. I don't know the answer to this question, nor did the students. What attracted you to the DC universe and these particular characters? And then what was the genesis for your vision that is so specific and so defining of this, that's why they call it the Snyderverse. It's fascinating because it's been done and you did it again differently and better. So where did that come from?
Well, thanks. Yeah, Zach. Well, thank you, sir. That's fine. That's kind. And also, the only thing I'll add to what Debbie was saying is that, we were talking about, when she was just talking about growing wheat, for the movie we just made, we had to grow a lot of wheat. Space wheat.
10 football field. What,
Yeah.
Right? Like,
It's space wheat.
10
Gotta
football
call it-
fields.
You put space in front of anything in a space movie. You say space and then the thing. Anyway, but we learned all that stuff on Man of Steel because we had to grow all that corn. So we were corn farmers before we were wheat farmers. And so, yeah, there was a lot of agricultural. Probably you didn't learn. You guys should have a class, maybe, something to consider, like, just agricultural. So you have a little bit of like, oh, no, we can't start then because the
little animal
corn
husbandry.
won't be ready, of course. This is the wrong weather. It's the wrong, so Anyway, as far as my attraction to DC characters goes, I've been a fan. I was a huge fan of a comic book called The Dark Knight Returns, and when I was growing up, and also Watchmen, and not a bad comic book if you're into comic books. Anyway, and so I just kind of had I had a relationship with Frank because of 300, and we had done Watchmen, and so we were kind of in this headspace, comic book headspace, and I had met Chris. And he had, I think, for whatever reason, Chris didn't want to do a Superman movie, and David had written this script, and so it was really a matter of him finding someone to do this Superman movie, and he approached Debbie and I. He and Emma, we went to lunch at their house, and we just talked about what it could be. And then we read the script, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. I think I can do it. I think I would enjoy.
By the way, we read the script with someone sitting in our driveway.
Yeah, 'cause
and
we
we
couldn't
had
keep
a
it.
certain amount of time to read it. We would bring him out donuts, and then we all read it out loud.
Yeah, Wes
Me,
and
Zach
Debbie.
and Wes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they took the script from us, and it was
It was cool.
very secretive.
It felt very like, like clandestine, and like we were reading some sort of secret document that we shouldn't have. But it was, and then I think from there I kind of was like, well, this is what I would do, and Chris liked that, and that's kind of how the movie happened. And I think that for me anyway, the idea of like this sort of 5-movie arc, this sort of big giant like spinning of a giant universe evolved pretty quickly from the production of Man of Steel. Like, as we were working on this movie, it really started to churn in me this idea of really building out this giant world for what this could be. Because I was anxious to get to the Trinity. Because the Trinity, to me, in the DC universe, is kind of like the tip of the spear, kind of like the most important thing. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman standing together in a world that makes sense to those 3 characters was really what was really what it was all about for me. And the mission to do that, I got pretty early in my mind as far as what the goal would be, like the first step. And even like as we were doing this movie, Man of Steel, there's some little Easter eggs to LexCorp and to the Wayne Industries satellite, and things like that. And because I had it in my head that that's what I would that's what I would get to, and so how it's defined, like whether or not it is, or how it, I guess the better way of putting it is like my intention was not to necessarily have a definitive or certain take, but it was just that I had the thing I thought would be cool, and that's all it is. And it's not, and whatever that means, because like, look, we all know what's going to happen. There'll be another Superman and Batman origin film, and even then the one that's being talked about right now, there'll be one after that. And it is a cyclical thing. It's like some sort of Matrix universe where, like, they all end up in the architect's house, and he tells them that, like, no, you're not the first one. You're like the 10,000th one. So whatever, So that's cool, and I'm happy to be whatever the third in the series of 1,000, so it's fine. But the truth is, it's really interesting mythological and cyclical work that I find really satisfying. So it's fun to do. It's really fun. Oh well, it's fair.
And so
I'll agree with it. I don't know if it's true.
Just briefly,
Probably the 8th is the best, but that's fine. Just some sort of numerical thing,
It's a good round number.
But that's fine. But the 3rd is also not bad.
I'm trying to imagine when you went in to see Warner Brothers and you said, Superman, he's going to be really pissed off a couple of times. And Batman, he's going to like brand people like they're on the Yellowstone Ranch, and it's going to be messed up. And they just go, okay, we're cool with that, Zach. Just let him be pissed.
I mean, I think the whole thing, my whole take on Superman is that, like, obviously, my intention is not that Superman is angry. It's more that he is troubled by Earth because Earth is problematic for him. And the whole idea of Superman in its sort of iconographic form is that Superman, we were talking about it just as we were watching the movie, that, the potential is that he doesn't have any problems, right? Like, he's a god on Earth and he can pretty much do whatever he wants. And there's nothing really we don't have a lot to say about it, which is Lex's problem with him. And by the way, Batman's problem with him. And so for Superman, the real work is to make him have problems, right? Like, that's the work of Superman, to make him have, whether it be romantic issues, like he can't like get the girl to like him that he likes, or whether it's like, moral conundrums about what his role is as far as interfering in the lives of humans or not, or all of the issues that, going against his father's wishes, all of the stuff that, and also all the stuff that we all in some ways experience on a small scale as just humans. That's really the work of making a Superman movie relatable, because otherwise, as you can imagine, you could really easily fall into a space where Superman, unless you're really efforting to contrive scenarios where he is not, where he's doing things that are difficult, is where you want to be. You want to be where he is emotionally having to grapple with his own humanity, and I think that was the goal of the movie. Really.
Well, thanks for that, because it kind of, I think in a big way, you just explained a big part of the appeal of these movies.
Yeah, no, because in the end, if you can empathize with Superman, then you've sort of won that. You've made Superman relatable, I guess, is the real thing, and I think that was the hope.
Cool. All right. Let us open this up for some questions from all of you all. I see one right over here. Lily, she's got the mic. We got somebody. So maybe stand up and we'll bring you a microphone so that they can hear you at home, as they say. or will we? So you know what?
We have a mic.
We do. We have somebody with a microphone, but I don't know where she is.
They have it and they left.
She's
cool.
actually at the pawn shop now
I'll
with the
walk up.
microphone.
You go, Ross.
I'm walking.
I was going to say we can take this one.
I
up
am
here.
Vanna Whiting this.
More of a Phil Donahue, I think, but that's fine.
Hello.
Whew, sorry, nervous.
Wes.
Thank you guys for.
There he goes again, saving the day. Damn it.
Thank you guys so much for putting this together and inviting all of us to be able to be here. You talked about budgeting earlier, and you seem to be a director that is very efficient with your budgets, but I'm wondering if you were given a blank check, what is your dream story that you would like to tell?
A blank check. I don't know. That's a good one. That's a good. What's up? Oh, ha. That's funny. I guess that's right. I mean, honestly, probably. Probably. I mean, blank check. I mean, you kind of. The scenario is pretty ludicrous, but I like it.
But isn't it
Question.
not
Thank you.
not necessarily about the money always? It's sometimes about content that might be a little bit more pokey or controversial. You know, we have some smaller projects that, you know, might be even harder to get made because everyone wants the big blockbuster movies. So sometimes the smaller projects that don't take as much money are harder to actually get made.
Weirdly, that's true. You know, if I go in and go like, look, I want to just give me $1 and I'm going to go do this thing, you know, it's going to be crazy. They're like, yeah, okay, that's cool. We definitely want that. Yes to that. But in the meantime, could you just do this other giant thing that we want you to do? If once that's done, for sure, yes, definitely to the $1 thing. That's great. But like, is there any way you could just first and then that? How's that? And I'm like, okay, fine. That's my own problem. What? Shoot it in the driveway. Shoot it with your phone. Yeah, I have no problem with that, by the way. I have no problem with that. It's with the movie, you know, it's fun actually to sort of talk about, you know, the idea that we did, you know, the last two movies. When I was in commercials, I was a director cameraman, right? So I, you know, which in commercials means director DP. And so it's funny because, like, you know, we did Army and I was like, okay, that worked pretty good. And then the movie we just did, you know, shooting it was like, because it was much more of like a traditional, like, you know, Army was all handheld and like a lot of like, it was very particular, but this was like really classic, you know, like, you know, it's a sci-fi movie. So everything has to be designed, all the lights, everything. And it was really a super fun exercise. For me, it kept me really in the movie, like deeply in every aspect of the movie. And I found that really satisfying. But you can imagine that a smaller movie would require that same skill set, but now you're working with like what you've got, you know, like, and I think that would be it would be fun to go do something really kind of smaller, but we'll see if they let me do that.
Cool. Let's see. Wow.
Without a blank check.
They're popping up all over the place. This gentleman right here, Lily, please stand up, sir.
Hello? Cool. Working? Okay, cool. Thank you. Great. Man of Steel is my favorite movie. I'm going to show you my tattoo. Woo! Saw it in theaters 10 years ago. Loved it. So my question is for Zack and Christina. How long did you know that Swanwick was going to be Martian Manhunter? And I know that the goal was to do Jon Stewart, but Carrie Ferris is, Hal Jordan. So I was just wondering if you knew how that was going to work at all. Thanks.
Okay. As far as I was just saying it on the stream inside that the conversations around Martian Manhunter started like in post on Man of Steel. I mean, not on Man of Steel, on PBS. Because I was watching it, when we were watching in the editorial, I was like, Swanwick. I don't know, but like, it's literally, we were talking about it earlier, like if you look at when Superman goes to the glass in Man of Steel and everyone backs up except for Swanwick. And that was a choice by the actor. I was like, oh, that was cool. And I was trying to decide whether that was like wrong. But I liked it. And I was like, no, that's cool. That's good. Yeah, do that. And I think that really, in retrospect, inspired this whole possibility. And so, yeah, that's my take. And I don't know what you thought.
Well, jumping off of that, I don't remember if it was like something that, it must have been something you posted on social media. But Harry and I have stayed friends over the years. So he texts me and he's like, have you seen this? Like, did you know? Because it wasn't like a thing that was chatted about lightly on set. But it was cool. And I know Harry was so excited. It was so cool. Yeah.
Harry was very happy about it. Yeah. And he's also awesome. He's literally the coolest guy in the world. So, yeah. Yeah, we should have had him out too. I think he's in New York, isn't he? Yeah, he's still in Black. Yeah, so. Although he might have flown out because he loves that.
He would have. He's going to be jealous. Yeah. Harry's so generous. Like, he has been in my husband's indie films. He loves my husband very generously. And has just been like and if you look at his IMDb, he's in like 7 trillion things because he just supports everybody. And he's so lovely and gracious, and I can't sing his praises enough.
Nor can I. And the voice is insane. We have to get him to do like some Shakespeare again somehow.
You don't have to. He'll just do it.
Yeah,
for you.
right. That's
he
true.
That's
true. Just do Shakespeare.
He's made his own movies, actually. If you look, like he's directed, like he produces and directs stuff, and he's played some Shakespearean roles.
Yeah. All right, so you guys know what to do.
Wow, look at this.
Great question.
Let me go in the back because it's mean to go to people just in the front. I see a woman in. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's actually a man's hand. He has. Yeah, I'm reading his mind. He has a mask on. Please stand up, sir.
Do you want the mic?
Yeah, sure. It's a surgical mask.
Hi, Zach. Okay, this is working, I guess. Yeah. So my question's for you. So Man of Steel and BVS were like the last time you released a movie in 3D, which was like over 7 years ago, about 7 years ago at this point. So
I forgot about 3D. Yes, go on.
So with Avatar 2 kind of like reigniting like interest in that, I just wanted to ask you, like, well, firstly, like if you've seen it, like how do you like it? And secondly, like what your thoughts on the format are overall, and if you like have any plans to shoot any movies like natively in 3D in the future, or like do any conversions or something like that,
Okay, that's cool. Cool 3D question. Avatar, awesome.
Excuse me.
Yeah, just loved it. That's cool. As far as 3D goes, do I have any plans to shoot anything in native 3D? No, I do not. I forgot about that format. I'll be 100% honest. It's cool to see it. I have no issue with it existing. I love it. But, yeah, I don't know if I'm doing any 3D, especially native 3D. And Netflix is kind of hard for your 3D. Although I don't know, like, can they do that?
strap 2 TVs to your head.
2 TVs. Yeah.
Actually, we were screening one of your films, and it was in 3D or flat, and we were at the theater, and somebody said, "Would you like to see this in 3D or flat?" And we both shouted flat at exactly the same time. I actually remember that happening.
I think the best 3D, Guardians of Gaul is the best 3D movie. If you want, I mean, I don't know if that's even like if you could see it in 3D anywhere, but I remember seeing it going like, okay, yep, that's cool. That makes sense. Yeah. But, and you know, you said, what was the last 3D movie? Was BVS? Yeah. I don't know if I've even, I mean, I think I approved it in 3D, but I don't think I like watched it. I was too obsessed with like the special edition. So, like, yeah. Anyway. Alex, did we do anything? Did you do anything different for 3D? Did you think about the movie? I mean, because did we talk about it? I think we did. We did have it. It was a 3D movie in our minds when we were planning it.
I think everything is 3D.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's a good point.
Everything is ready for 3D.
Even in 2D, it's 3D, I guess, is a good point. Yeah, that's what depth of field is for, isn't it? But yeah, because I remember I had a meeting with Jim Cameron. I think it was right before we did Superman, and he was wanting us to shoot the movie natively. He was saying like, well, you're going to shoot the movie natively in 3D, aren't you? And I was like, I don't know. Yes, Jim. That's a great idea. But then, you know, it was a film show, and I didn't know, you know, that was problematic, you know, to shoot a 3D film show because you need 2 cameras all the time. So that would have been, yeah, you know, or a beam splitter. I guess even with the beam, you still need 2 cameras. Yeah. So yeah, that's hard. That would have been hard. And handheld. I didn't see that happening. It's like 2 Panavision Golds like through a beam splitter. That's a lot of cameras. But so yeah, it's interesting.
You know, all this talk about the future being the past now. Alex, are you going to be using AI in your workflow? Do you want to? Do you not want to? Are you using it? What are you doing with it? What do you think of it? All of that stuff.
It's an interesting time, isn't it? I think it's a fantastic augmentation of what we do. I think the problem right now is people think it's going to replace what we do. And there's obviously everyone's very threatened by it. I think a script written by AI is not going to make a good movie. I think that but you know, we're looking at a lot of art, obviously, and I teach at USC, and I teach world building and design, but I teach it to students who are not necessarily designers. And so for them, it's an amazing medium. They may not have the visual skills, but they can talk what's in their mind. And so I think it has enormous potential. It's going to be embedded in everything we do. But I think that, well, you know, one of the things I believe is that we will always survive AI because we make mistakes all the time. And the intelligence is going to be seen as failure if it makes mistakes, in the sense of the intuitive and the deliberate and the, you know, essentially we're stupid, and therefore we will survive any kind of AI attack for our human center.
Yeah, the very thing that like we would say like, oh, look at the personality of this piece would be the thing that the AI would say like, God damn it, like I fucked up. Yeah, it's cool.
Well, they'll never get AI to write a script because they can't teach it to procrastinate, oversleep, have 4 cats, feel sorry for itself. Yeah, it ain't happening.
That's true.
Questions. Boy, there are so many of them. I see a man here with his, yes, he's pointing at his head. So that must mean he's smart.
First of all, Zack and Deb, I just want to say on behalf of the East Coast contingent and especially the city of Detroit, we want to thank you for coming to film BVS there.
Thank you.
It was a really
Our
big
pleasure.
deal. It was a really big deal for us. I know they shut down the production facilities there. It was a huge drag for everybody. So we're glad that you're able to come and do that for us. Philosophically, as storytellers, now this is for Zack and for Deborah, you're known as a very detail-oriented storyteller. Your plotting is very tight. It really requires people to pay attention in a way that maybe other films don't require of them. Is there any time through the testing process or when you're going through other producers at the studio or something like that where they think maybe the films are too tight, you're asking too much of the audience, they're getting lost, they're making mistakes when they go online and saying stupid shit over and over and over again for 10 goddamn years? Is there ever a point where you have felt like, okay, maybe we need to loosen this up a little bit because we're relying on the audience to be maybe a little smarter than maybe sometimes they are?
Go ahead. I mean, look, it's not even like that we think about it in that way. Yes, when we show a movie and things that I think are obvious, sometimes maybe not to everybody. But I always think that like if it's there, if it's in the movie and I know it's there, then it makes sense. Like if the movie, even if you have to look for it, you'll find it. You know what I mean? It's not like it's not there. And so a thing that you might be confused about in the movie, like you would think that at a certain point that a movie that's made with, all the planning that we have, and you come to a moment in the movie where you're like, wait, that doesn't make sense. They never set up that character. Like, that can't be true. Like, it's probably not the case, right? It's probably not the case that the character is not set up correctly. Now, yes, there are times where for time or for editorial or for whatever reason, you do certain things, you make certain cuts, you make certain compromises, and the movie, mostly it can be, certainly certain storylines can be made smaller or made to feel like they don't matter or that they don't exist at all. That would affect, if you had seen the overall original concept, you'd have been like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So I think more than do we go like, oh, should we be more careful and make it a little broader or a little less complicated? More than that, it's just that we have the complicated thing to begin with, and we end up like, hacking a limb off of it in order for it to like fit in a box, and that's painful, but for a piece of mass entertainment, sometimes, you sacrifice, a detail for, viewability, I guess, is a way to sort of think about it. I don't know. Does that make sense, Debbie?
Yeah, and I think to go back to process a little bit, many of you know that Zack draws the entire film, and it's a process that I hate, actually, because we're prepping all day and working, and then he draws, and all weekend he's drawing. And it's like, I don't even mind when he's writing, because he writes the script, it's so many pages, but the actual...
I procrastinate.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
But the frames take so long to draw because he's really making it in his head, and he's thinking about it. But what it allows for is for all the teams to be on the same page. And we actually don't share these with anyone but the crew. They don't go to the studio. They see them later and they go, wow, we should publish those, or something like that. But it gives us, I think, just so much information, which is helpful to everyone. So I feel like, I don't know, is it tight? It allows us to actually, I think, save money and give us more money for the spectacle and things like that, because For like Alex, he knows exactly what Zack's shooting. Like there's some directors that like, okay, we're shooting in this room, and they come in and like you have to make that whole room because you don't know where they're going to be looking and what they're going to be doing. But a lot of times Zack would sit with Alex and be like, okay, I just need these 2 walls.
Well, Watchmen for sure.
And oh yeah, in Watchmen we had that big backlot, and it was like we shot every single piece of it. So we built it in a way that, you know, we were able to build so many more things and give it much scope and scale, right?
Yeah, I totally support that. I mean, we are asked to make many movies where the director doesn't have a clear idea, and you waste a lot of time and you waste a lot of money. Because, you know, so I think for us, we're always waiting for Zack's drawings and then sitting with the drawings, and then we're planning around that. And there's an exchange of the research or the drawings that are inspired by what Zack does, and then that moves us towards a kind of process of being able to zero in on that fine level of detail, which I think is the other thing that was so satisfying about Watchmen and Man of Steel both, is that with that level of precision, you can get into so much detail. You can get into 4-legged turkeys, for example.
Really
you know, if you spot the
it's cool
turkey.
because like that, I mean, that was the thing about, you know, what the experience on Watchmen for me was that, you know, the guys would just, Alex would just take the drawings and like amplify it on such an awesome level that like it would be, you know, you always hope that that you do a drawing and you're like, okay, well, it'd be cool if it's kind of like this, you know, I think. And then I'd come in and be like, wow, that's better than what I thought. You know, it was a cool, you know, because it was such a great, Alex did such a great job of taking the comic book on this hand and my drawings on that hand, and having then sort of the satirical reality of what we perceived as the 20th century, basically, and like sort of found this great, you know, sort of meeting of those 3 things. You know, even just like in the talk shows, you know, we had a few talk shows in the movie. I was always like really in love with the talk show sets and or news sets, because they were like that perfect weirdo reality that reminded you of the talk show, but it wasn't the talk show exactly that you knew, but it was like this beautiful extract. It was like someone had squeezed or like made concentrate out of a pop culture event, and then it existed in a, you know, like there it was, but it was like not, it wasn't anything you could say that's that, but it was all of the things at the same time, but and not a cliche. It was just this really cool alchemy of, and in a lot of ways, the comic book is that, you know, even from moment to moment, you know, like one of my favorite things, and it's not really in the comic book, was in the title sequence of that Studio 54 shot with Ozymandias and, you know, Mick Jagger and Ziggy Stardust, and like this idea that like you could extrapolate the why of masked vigilantes being in this sort of like flamboyant costumes based on sort of excess and glamour and fashion, and like this weirdo like juxtaposition of like also New York City in the 70s. It's just like a cool, I don't know, like those are the kind of things that I just thought were like really amazing. So yeah, that's cool. I don't even know.
Watchmen's a great example of the process, isn't it? Because the comic book was the first time I realized that a comic book was, I mean, Watchmen, the comic book was really 5-dimensional. There's so many stories. When you're looking at a page, the stories go crosswise and left to right and right to left, and then there's embedded clues like 4-legged turkeys. And but to make sense of that, you've got to really extract the parts of it that matter. And it goes back to Zack drawing. It's like, how the hell do you make a movie out of a world as complex as that? It's that kind of fine weaving through and pulling out what really matters. But the comic book then for us becomes a fantastic visual source because you've got to support the iconography and the kind of surreality of all of the parts. Yeah.
Yeah, I would cut it out. I was like my drawings, and like literally, if you look at, I don't know, I've probably shown it a couple times to a lot of people have probably seen it, but like if you look at the drawings I've done of the title sequence of Watchmen, it is a weirdo collage scrapbook of it's frames from the graphic novel and like pop culture and like whether it be like, you know, Norman Rockwell or, you know, the Enola Gay or whatever it is, like all the things. It's like this really Ouija, all the stuff, you know, and all the way to Action Comics, you know, it has its, because that comic book and that piece of mythology is linked back to, because it deconstructs comic book heroes, it is self-reflexive. So it says, okay, it doesn't acknowledge that, or it does acknowledge, but kind of pretends like it's not a comic book, you know? So it has this amazing, like a bit, you know, it's like, it's saying that reality, like just the simple fact that in that world comics don't exist. And so pirate comic books are the comic books, right? Pirate heroes are the superheroes because superheroes are real. So like that little game of deconstruction is the game that we then play with every single thing, like on every level, every idea, every like nuance, whether it be nuclear war or war with the Russians or, you know, Dr. Strangelove and all the things that we kept mixing into the pot were all meant to make the original sort of thesis of the comic book, you know, reinforce it. And I think that was a super fun, for that reason, it was amazingly satisfying and fun to do that because it was like every day we'd show up and it'd be another crazy thing. Like it's a crazy Nixon, like, you know, doing his crazy, you know, whatever, just fun. It's just like, you know, it was a good time. That was good.
Wow. This is, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in because I've got a question from the online group, and it's perfect because we're looking at the other half of the movie. They're asking about, and this is for Zack and Debbie, your amazing attention to sound design. Because everybody goes, oh, well, Zack, he's a visionary, you know. The sound design is extraordinary, and there's obviously nothing in there by mistake. It's consistent through the films. And so tell us a little bit about how your process for putting these soundscapes together.
We work with this amazing sound designer, Scott Hecker, who has worked on every single movie since Dawn.
Yep.
And we start really early in the process with Scott, and we will say, hey, like the world engines.
Yeah, he was working. We had the world engine sounds while we were shooting.
We were like, what does this sound like? Or whether it's, you know, when we did the zombies in Army of the Dead, we wanted them to sound different. What do they look like? What do they sound like? And here's what they look like. And, you know, I think that dialogue, you wouldn't think it would start that early, but it starts with showing him some of the art, sometimes some of the footage. So then when we're in the edit room, because, you know, that you have 12 weeks after you're done shooting, 2 weeks for the editor and then 10 weeks for Zack to present that director's cut. And you're working and working. So if you just start then, the same thing with music, like whether it be Hans or Junkie, they start really early on, you know, getting into character and presenting suites of music that, you know, they haven't even seen pictures. Sometimes it's when we're prepping and they're just working on it from the script and discussions. A lot of times Zack will create these mixtapes that he listens to when he's drawing. And like for Watchmen, we actually
they're not
had
on
a lot
tape
of them.
anymore.
Oh, that is true. Sorry, but
Although I should go back to that. That'd be cool. I just saw that. I think on where did I see that? Like, was it on? Was it on like? I think it's on. Was it on Instagram today, or like it was on Uncrate? I don't know. Like they had this like cassette player. and it was like a new one. It was like an update. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to buy that so I can make some mixtapes.
Okay, playlist.
I like
playlist.
mixtapes. Don't get me.
I think it just starts really early, and I think that it's about story and it's about character and the sounds. Whether it's the sound of a particular space, we're working on space weapons right now. We've been working on those for a long time to figure out the perfect sound for those things, or the sound of the ships or whatever. Like I think that just spending as much time developing the soundscapes than we do with the visual language is why, Zack also loves sound. So we always have a lot of it in the film.
Yeah, I do. I do love sound. I always say Scott and I's favorite thing to say is I go, well, like any noise that is like a door closing or like I go like, you should get like a safe door and record it. Like that should be the sound. He's like, well, it's like a cabinet. It doesn't really make sense. That the guy would, I'm like, well, still should be a safe door. Like everything should be safe. Bigger safe door. Like a smaller, like a range of safe doors, but like a really huge one for, anything that's kind of bigger than than that. But yeah, no, Scott loves that because he's always like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, he's like, sound is a weapon. That's what he always says. Because we'll be in the mix and I'll be like, oh, my ears are bleeding. And he'll say, then he's like, sound is a weapon. Be careful. Keep the dog. Like we were mixing the other day and there was like a dog there. The dog has to leave the mix stage or we have to put little headphones on it because it's too loud for the little dog. But it's true.
Well, you certainly got to hear it tonight, in this theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's Dolby Atmos. Thank you very much. There's 90 speakers in here. And
That's
when
good.
you have a good movie where people know what they're doing, it kind of kicks ass.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So it's pretty cool. So I think we have someone up in the front here. Here comes Lily. She's Vanna White.
Should I stand or is that redundant?
Sure, stand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, face that way. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have.
Okay. So I would really love to get an insight into your world building for Krypton, because even though it's not got a lot of presence as far as runtime goes, it's incredibly dense with socio-political commentary. It's like a really heavy allegory for the military-industrial complex and the climate crisis. You have these they're very clearly representative of like Western leaders who do nothing about the climate crisis that we're all having to deal with right now. And there's a polar bear, which why is there a polar bear in the movie if you're not talking about the climate crisis?
Yeah, we got the polar bear.
But yeah, it's just
we got him from IMAX, by the way, which is cool.
It's a highly militaristic society that they have an affinity for eugenics and they're bragging about not having a moral compass. So it's really densely packed, even though there's not a lot there as far as, like I said, runtime goes. So yeah, any insight you can offer into that, because I find it really fascinating.
I mean, the only thing there's a lot. I mean, yes, thank you, great question, and there's a lot to unpack with that. We could do probably an hour of that. But I'll let Alex talk about the design because he did touch on it, but I think there's more there. I guess for me, it was yes, it's a small part of the movie. Well, small, what is it, 20 minutes or something like that, or maybe less. And we knew but you have to sort of do the work of making a credible world for Superman to come from. And so I think that work of, and also, honor canon, kind of understand, even just on a sort of purely comic book level, you have that to do. That's the first layer. Then Goyer's script had a lot of that stuff in it, and we talked a lot about, whether it be the climate crisis or whether it be denial of how these events are going to flesh out, and sort of this, and then also of course Zod and Zod's take, this sort of coup. And also I think the thing about Zod that's really interesting is his you could argue whether or not he's right. That's what makes him interesting, right? Because like from his point of view, he also like thinks they're crazy, right? That the politicians don't get it. So it's like, is his method the correct method? So like all of those layers, I think were informative in discussions. We would say like, how do you then visualize like a world like that and also make it beautiful, right? Because in a weird way, it still has to be like compelling and beautiful, like no matter what, like even if, Jor-El's house looks like a giant penis. But there's a reason, there's a why to it. And I think I was like I thought that was awesome, by the way. And I think that the Citadel is very like very strong and very, well, they were trying to, what they're trying to do in there. So it's very interesting. It's very cool. But anyway, I guess my point is that, that goes back to what we were just talking about, I think, as far as, you have story, you have intent, and then Alex has a really hard job because he has to, like, none of that stuff exists, right? Like, Krypton is a mythological place that and it doesn't exist even as it does in the movie. So, like, even if you were going to go look at historical Krypton as it is in the comic books or in movies, we weren't going to do that. Like, we were going to be like, no, okay, can we learn from it? Yes. Can it inform? Yes. But I think in the end, because our story is so particular, the design has to service that story. But of course, without denying and or contradicting the canon and tradition in some way. So it's that's the challenge anyway.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the form language, and there is a lot of penis in there.
Thank God. There's a lot of vaginas in the scout ship, which is also a great.
Absolutely.
So it's.
But I think what you're
not hard to see. I think.
Gender equality.
It's not a
That's
surprise.
What, we're always
represent. You got to represent.
But you're asking about the mythology, and I think that's where, the opportunity to build Krypton really from scratch and build 150,000 years, 100,000 years of deep history, and to be able to follow the destruction or the self-destruction and why that happens, and why the glyphs that they're wearing, the S is not an S, or the glyph on Zod's chest is tied back into the idea of these clans that essentially drill down into their own culture so much that they eliminate science, and so we've got this incredible world to start with. But then we have to sort of invent from the ground up. And the through line and the holistic kind of consistency of the world in design is crucial. And the level of detail that you put into it may not be on the surface, but it informs the surface. So I think the example that was incredibly satisfying, I've never done since, never been asked to do before, was when Zack wanted a language. Where, to begin with, I think you wanted a language that they could speak.
Yeah, my original concept was that on Krypton, it was all going to be subtitled, and they were going to learn Kryptonian, and that was going to be just how the movie was. Like, they were like, you wouldn't. And then my original idea was like, no subtitles, like, it's like Passion of the Christ. It's like Aramaic or something. Like, you just have to kind of understand, like, you have to just sort of figure it out from the content. That was, yes, exactly. That was how, like, crazy it was at the beginning. And then everyone's like, you're insane.
Yeah, I think I said, are you kidding me?
Yeah. I was like, but like, isn't that cooler? Like, I don't know.
But it actually, wove through all of Krypton in the end, because you asked that question. And then we hired a linguist anthropologist who invented an entire language from the ground up and a numeric system, and it related to the idea that the object was so important in the society that it created changed the structure of the sentences. So if you have your Krypton dictionary, you can actually decipher a lot of the the writing on the objects, because it's all real, it's all translated, it's all based on the language that Zack wanted them to speak, basically. But then it informs the visuals, like the S informs the visuals. The shape of the language embeds itself in the shape of the biology lab, and actually the creatures, and particularly the ships, because you're right that Krypton's there in the first 20 minutes, but the design of the ships and the behavior of the ships and the costumes, that weaves through the whole film. And you never forget Krypton, because the core visual language and that early work that we did informs every single aspect of how that world works. And the inside of a ship, in a way, is just a continuation of Krypton.
Wow. All right, so I totally lost track of time because I'm having too damn much fun. So I think we have time for 2 more before we let everybody go home. Let's see. There's so many hands up. I see a woman right on the end there. She's waving. She's going to stand up. Poor Lily has to schlep clear across the stage.
Hello, Zack and Debbie. I'm a video production major, and many people consider the action genre to be a boys' club. However, I believe your films depict women as powerful and autonomous and contain many nuanced examples of gender theory. Can you speak on the intentionality in which you portray the women in your films, specifically in Man of Steel?
Wow. You want me to go, or you can go?
I'm going to go on this one.
Okay, good.
I think what was amazing when we were talking about the characters and working with David Goyer on the script was that I think traditionally Superman was always saving Lois, right? And I feel like in our film, they save each other. She saves him as much as he saves her. And I think that was really important, and I do think, like, all of our films have really strong female characters. I think Zack is definitely not threatened by strong women in his life. And we try and surround ourselves, we always talk about what's in the script. We always talk about the character. A lot of times we talk about female directors, but it's just as important for all the technical positions, because there are like 500 people on these big movies, sometimes 1,000 on a day if you're counting construction. And I was always so tired of looking around, and I love men. Listen, I like working with them. It's great. I'm very comfortable with that, but I also want to see more women behind the camera. And we've really tried to have really strong female positions in, like, our AD is a woman. We've hired our best boy is a woman that we've been working with, in just very big, as heads of departments. And we've also, one of the things that's been super important to me was to bring young women, not necessarily women who are in film school, because everyone's in film school are already there. They know what at least film is all about. But high schools, and we've worked with programs with lower income students to bring them, and particularly women on set, so they can see all the different roles that there are. So, it is very important to have these characters on screen, but to me, it's also equally important to have the crew be represented too.
Really good point. All right, you're
cool.
on the spot, sir. You get the last question.
Right here, should I just yell it out?
No, we need a mic so that the people at home can hear.
Oh, okay. All right. So I spent a bit thinking about this. Zach, love your work, always have. Talk about your cinematography, because I feel like you, more so than many other comic directors, have a style where you almost like the framing always looks like it's a comic book panel, like Justice League. Almost that whole movie looks like a walking comic book. Just tell me I know you draw, but tell me like some of your thought process, what goes into your cinematography. Thank you.
Thank you. That's good. Appreciate that. Yeah, I guess it does start with the drawings, and as far as for me anyway, like as far as how I'm sort of visual. I know that it's a tool for everyone, but it also for me, like the drawing is the first time I make the movie, the first time I sort of like sort of compositionally and from a story standpoint and like as a piece, I do like as best I can. I like each frame to have a little bit of a beginning, middle, and end as best I can. And I think that's probably why it has an illustrative quality, because like an illustration, which is whether it be a comic book drawing or painting or whatever, it really relies on that one frame to tell its entire story. It has to convey, it has to have a beginning, middle, and end. It has to have depth. It has to have be emotional, be world building. It has to be everything in a single moment. It doesn't really have the opportunity to say like, oh, don't wait for the next painting, for you to figure out what's happening in this one. Like that's not really how classically sort of less linear art forms, like whether it be a sculpture or a photograph or a painting, sort of exist. They exist sort of in a singular moment. Film, of course, and other sort of mixed media that expresses itself across time or expresses itself in multiple images or multiple environments, whether it be like installation or whatever, can exist as a sort of progressive like experience, like as you move forward, like, oh, you're getting more information. But like when you make an image for a film, if you can do it if you can sort of treat each shot, even though you are in this sort of, movement, you can, I think you can, even though I'm not successful in every frame, I don't think the attempt is there by me to make it feel as if this frame has a beginning, middle, and end. It could exist on its own. It doesn't necessarily need the image before it or after it for itself. Now, that doesn't mean like as the giant puzzle that is the movie, it is a single piece and it needs the other pieces to tell the greater story. But for itself, just like we don't know how our story affects like the whole of humanity, our singular self, but we are complete as ourselves. And so, but we are part of this big tapestry. So I think that's a way of thinking about it. Like when you go to make a shot, and now I don't mean to be like instructive, but like if you're a filmmaker and you're going to make a shot, if that is even in the smallest way in your consciousness, that like, wow, what about this shot? Because the truth is, if you don't know anything about the way a movie set works, it's like, okay, we got to get the shot of them coming in the door and sitting down and taking the pencil out and starting to write the thing. So you're like, okay, cool. Like, okay, like I guess the door's over there. So, in order to see them come through it, we're going to point the camera at the door. You're not like, it's interesting because the 2/3, if I put the framing, like, that'd be great if you did that every time. And trust me, I endeavor to, but a lot of times they're like, look, we got 5 minutes before we got to leave. Like, if you don't get the shot of the kid now, the kid's going to go off the clock and that's it. You don't get to film the kid anymore. So you're like, okay, all right, just like, how about like this? We'll see if we can capture them on film in some way, like walking across the room. So there are those moments as well. It's just like the reality of just madness that is motion picture photography. But if at all possible, to endeavor to make a frame that you find aesthetically compelling, I think that's really where it. And also, I would say to any filmmakers out there, and whether it's a movie or a painting or a photograph, whatever you're doing, you are also the prism of the thing. Like the AI doesn't have the ability. Like as a viewer, I want this prism between me and the reality that the filmmaker puts on. Like, you have your experience, you walk around the world, you see things, you feel things, and then when you make a movie, it goes through you and onto the screen. And I, as a human being, want that. I want your touch, your personality, your way of seeing on screen, so I can have an empathetic human experience by what you put on screen. And I think that is the way I kind of try anyway, to think about the way I photograph things, because, I had a teacher here at Art Center, this guy named Paul Jasmine, amazing photographer, and he said, it doesn't matter, like the camera, none of it matters, like the quality of the camera, all that matters is is your point of view. That's it. That's all you have as a filmmaker and as an artist, is the way you see. Like, no one can know the way you see, and the only way to get into your head and to see how you see is for you to make something that allows me to sort of experience that in some small way. So like, that's the job of you filmmakers, is to like let me see through your eyes. So that's what I try and do. So that's what I hope you guys do.
That is awesome right there, and so true. So I'm going to wrap up my part of this by just giving you guys a quick story about what it's really like in film school, and then I'll lob it over to Zack and Debbie, who can kind of close us out. So I heard this from one of our instructors a few days ago. They were in a classroom in this room screening their work, and because Zack and Debbie and Wes were so instrumental in getting this going, the conversation turns to Zack. And everyone's, kind of talking about his films and what have you. And then one of the students, sort of apropos of nothing, says, most film directors are so ugly, but Zack is handsome.
That's nice.
I thought, okay. Yeah.
That's a good way to end this whole conversation. I don't think it's really kind of
beautiful man.
On the inside too.
Debbie agrees. I hope.
I think he's
So
hot.
that's it. That's it.
Although I did say to the,
I don't know what that has to do with film school.
It's because
I'm not contradicting the analysis. I
would take it. But then I asked the instructor, I said, the student does know that you're a film director, right? And he goes, yeah, he knows. Tough room.
That's cool. Well, all I'll say is that I don't think that's a requirement of motion picture. And I think there's a lot of handsome movie directors out there. And I think it's kind of a rude thing to say. I feel like that's not cool.
It was really
some of my good friends are very handsome men and women. Yeah, so.
Not as good looking as you.
That's kind. That's kind. It's a biased crowd, though, so I'm not gonna take it to the bank 100%. So that's cool. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Debbie, good kisser. I don't know.
I think I want to say that there are still T-shirts and posters, and
that's true.
These amazing sculptures that Zack signed from Weta out there for a silent auction. And if you're online and you want to donate, but just being here to be able to talk about the film is really fun, and to talk about filmmaking, and also just, for a really important cause. And thank you again for coming, and we still have 2 days left, so.
Yay!
Thank you, everyone.
I don't know what we're going to talk about tomorrow.
Come up with something.
Hopefully
Thanks,
it's something
everyone.
controversial.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank
We appreciate it.
Wait. Before you guys all get up, hold on. We got a couple more things to do.